after after recognitions.
Do it after the early childhood center stuff?
That's not going to be for a while.
I understand, but they're here. Assuming they're not just, I don't know, like leaving, which they will. You know, assuming they're here for this issue, they might as well stay in their seats so we get to the part where we talk about it.
Oh, I see what I understand what he's saying.
Just don't do a break till after the work session on ECC.
That'll be an hour and a half from now.
Well, really, I mean, it's board liaison reports and it's policy review, which I don't think there'll be many questions on.
I have one question, that's all. I mean, we gotta have something.
Yeah. Good evening. We are going to begin our meeting. If you would join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Nikki, would you please call roll?
Mrs. Hopper.
Here?
Ms. Matt Franklin.
Here.
Mr. Reedy.
Here.
Mr. Schindler.
Here.
Mr. Seltzer.
Here.
Mr. Spector.
Here.
Mr. Todd.
I'm here. Tonight, we are pleased to recognize a number of people, a number of things. But first on the list is Claymant's principal, Dr. Nathan Birch, the 2024 Missouri National Distinguished Principal recipient. We'll also honor 16 schools receiving the Energy Star Building certification, a Missouri School Board Association scholarship winner from West High, and Parkway's Fine Arts Department for receiving the Missouri Alliance for Arts for Education Distinguished School District Award. So first, please welcome Dr. Tiffany Holman-Bess, our Deputy Superintendent, to introduce Dr. Nathan Birch, Claymont Elementary Principal and recipient of the 2024 Missouri National Distinguished Principal Award.
Good evening, President Todd, Vice President Hopper, Dr. Marty, Ms. Stovers, and members of the Board of Education. It is my pleasure to stand before you tonight and talk about Dr. Nathan Birch. The Missouri Association of Elementary School Principals participates in the National Association of Elementary School Principals National Distinguished Principal Program. The NDP program was established in 1984 to recognize elementary and middle-level principals who set high standards for instruction, student achievement, character, and climate for their students, families, and staff in their learning communities. The program is based on three fundamental ideas: children's attitudes toward learning and their perceptions of themselves as lifelong learners, the scope and quality of the children's educational experiences, and the dedication and enthusiasm of outstanding principals who guide their children's early educational experiences. Additional requirements by the national organization include a commitment to excellence, leadership of programs to design and meet academic and social needs of all students, and nominees are required to have close ties to parents and their school community. This year, Parkway's very own Dr. Nathan Birch was selected as the Missouri Association of Elementary School Principals National Distinguished Principal of the Year. It is without a doubt that Nathan exemplifies the qualities of an exemplary principal, and we are blessed to have him serving our Claymont community and influencing our administrative team in Parkway. During his 5 years in Parkway, Nathan has built a community and overcome obstacles to champion educational excellence for our young people at Claymont, as well as for his fellow leaders. Nathan, it is our pleasure to acknowledge your accomplishment as being selected as the Missouri National Distinguished Principal of the Year, and we congratulate you on representing the state of Missouri at the National Conference in October. Dr. Birch, please come forward.
He says, I think you should say a few words. I think one of the greatest things that you can do in life is impact other people. And as a principal, we get the ability to come to school every day. For me, it's 481 kids that I get to work with every day. I get to work with their families. I have 70 staff members that work at Claymont that are amazing educators that care and love what they do. So I appreciate the recognition, but the reality is that it takes all of us as a community, a school board, the teachers, the kids, to make a school what it is. So I consider myself incredibly grateful, and so I appreciate the honor.
Next, please welcome Lindsay Elliott, Sustainability and Energy Coordinator, to the podium.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to celebrate the achievement of our schools in the area of sustainability. It's my pleasure to congratulate 16 Parkway schools on achieving a 2023 Energy Star Building certification. These awards were received for energy use during the 2022 and 2023 school year. To achieve this certification, a school must earn an Energy Star score of 75 or higher on EPA's scale of 1 through 100, indicating that it performs better than at least 75% of similar buildings nationwide. A way that our schools, students, and teachers help keep energy use down include keeping appliances, computers, and lights turned off when not in use. Each school is receiving a certificate of achievement, a letter of recognition from the EPA, and an official Energy Star window decal to display that also states the number of years certified. I believe Northeast and Middle is at 10 years this year. Congratulations to these 16 Parkway schools on their achievement, and please continue your hard work in being energy efficient so that we can increase our sustainability efforts, and hopefully we'll have even more to congratulate next year. They're not listed there, so I'll go ahead and read them. Belle Reeve Elementary, Carmen Trails Elementary, Central Middle, Craig Elementary, Green Trails Elementary, Henry Elementary, Highcroft Ridge Elementary, McKelvey Intermediate Elementary, McKelvey Primary, North High, Northeast Middle, Piermont Elementary, Riverbend Elementary, Sorrento Springs Elementary, Southwest Middle, and Wren Hollow Elementary. Thank you all.
Next, please welcome Dr. Terrence Peterson with the Regional Executive Committee from the Missouri School Boards Association to introduce the 2024 MSBA Scholarship winner.
Thank you to the Parkway Superintendent, Dr. Marty, and the board members for allowing us to come and recognize one of your students. I'm going to turn it over. My name is Terrence Peterson. I am the region liaison for the Missouri School Boards Association, and I'm going to turn it over to our executive committee members to introduce themselves, and then we want to honor one of your students.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Keisha Lee, and I am the Regional Advocacy Chair, and I am from Ladue School District.
Good evening. My name is Keith Ravenberg. I'm from the Brentwood School Board. I am the Region 7 representative on the MSBA Board of Directors, and thrilled to be here to honor this young man.
And good evening, everyone. My name is Veronica Marwell-Real. I represent the proud school district of Riverview Gardens, and I am the chair of Region 7 at this time. Annually, the Missouri School Board Association Future Builders hosts the John T. Belcher Scholarship Essay Competition. School boards from each Missouri School Board Association member district are eligible to nominate one high school senior based on their essay to compete on the regional level to receive a $1,000 scholarship. To identify the regional scholarship winners, each essay submitted is reviewed by school board members who serve on the Regional Executive Committee for each region. This year, 220 essays were submitted. Our regional winner had a lot of stiff competition, but not to prolong the time. Therefore, it is with pride that we, the members of MSBA Region 7 Executive Committee, announce Parkway High School senior Andrew Sung as our Region 7 winner. And as he comes, the current Missouri School Board Association Future Builders Foundation are currently reviewing 17 applications or 17 essays of students, and the winner will be announced on April 29th. The statewide winner will be recognized at the Missouri School Board Association Summer Summit in Branson on June 25th. And the winner will receive an additional $1,500 scholarship. We wish Andrew nothing but the best.
I would just like to say a few thanks before again. Thank you to Dr. Marty and Dr. Todd for inviting me here today and for the time. And thank you to the Missouri School Board of Education for being here today and taking the time to come down to Parkway. Thank you. I'm truly honored to be here today and to be nominated by Parkway and to represent Parkway in winning Region 7 of the John T. Belcher Scholarship. But this scholarship journey would have not been possible without the generous support of many, first of whom I'd like to thank my high school counselor, Mr. Lorenz. I'm not sure if he's in the audience today, but to Mr. Lorenz, I just want to thank for his positive attitude and his support throughout any application process and in the track meets and track practices every day, so thank you. To Dr. Papillo and Dr. McKay for fostering such a inspiring environment at West High. And on that note, to all of Parkway West, I just want to give a big thanks because I'm standing here today not by my own merits alone, but because of this community that believed in me and empowered me to reach my own goals. And finally, to my loving parents, my dad in the audience today, and my mom who's probably watching this online. Hi, Mom. I just want to give a big thanks to them for their unwavering support, encouragement, and patience with me for the past 18 years. So thank you. My plans next year, well, I'm thinking about majoring in artificial intelligence, actually. And two colleges I'm thinking about right now is the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, and Georgia Tech. Thank you.
Okay, next please welcome Phyllis Paisley, Executive Director from the Missouri Alliance for Arts Education.
Thank you so much. Good evening to the esteemed members of the Board of Education for Parkway School District and the Parkway community. As Dr. Todd said, I am the Executive Director of a nonprofit service organization called the Missouri Alliance for Arts Education. If you'd like to learn more about our organization, visit www.moaae.org. But each year, the Alliance receives nominations to recognize excellence in arts education. We honor districts of distinction, community and governmental advocates, innovation and creativity in teaching, and others. Tonight, I'm here to honor and to recognize the Parkway School District as our 2024 District of Excellence and Distinction in Arts Education. This award recognizes schools that have done an outstanding job of making the arts essential to the education of their students. It also honors schools which provide a creative learning environment for outstanding student achievement. The Parkway School District, under the leadership of Superintendent Dr. Keith Marty and Fine Arts Director Jeff Lackey, has indeed made arts an essential part of the curriculum, which helps students achieve academic, artistic, and future success. As board members, it's likely that you hear about concerns from your community, and it may seem sometimes that you seldom hear when things are going well. Tonight, it is a pleasure and a privilege to share with you a Parkway parent's voice singing the praises of arts education in Parkway. This is a quote from the nomination. Parkway School District's Fine Arts program has positively impacted thousands of students. From parents as teachers and early childhood educators providing interactive parent-child music-making events, to elementary school music programs and art displays showcasing growth and learning. Opportunities not only for music making, but to learn collaboration, social skills, and help develop lasting friendships. One of the most inspiring parts of Parkway Schools is the orchestra program. Beginning in 3rd grade, every single child has the opportunity to learn to play the violin in addition to the general music classroom instruction. Parkway helps students connect the fine arts to real-world opportunities through community art displays, singing the national anthem at baseball games, and performances as service learning at local hospitals, nursing homes, and for veterans. I thank Parkway Schools for positively impacting the educational experiences of not only my own children, but the thousands of students and families who are #ParkwayProud. Parkway embodies what we at the Alliance want other schools to emulate, harnessing the incredible power of the arts to transform learning, to change lives, enrich communities, and develop skills for lifelong success. On April 3rd, we held our annual award ceremony at the Capitol in Jefferson City. We were honored to have Dr. Marty on hand to accept this award, as well as Representative LaDonna Applebaum and Representative Deb Lavender in attendance. Tonight, we celebrate this remarkable achievement with you, the members of the Board of Education, with Dr. Marty, with Jeff Lackey, and all of Pattonville's fine arts educators who positively impact the lives of the students and families they serve. For Parkway School District receiving the 2024 Distinction of Excellence and Distinction in Arts Education, we're pleased to offer our sincere congratulations. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Jeff is right behind you. Well, Phyllis, thanks so much for coming over. I had the pleasure, as was mentioned, to be at the Rotunda last week to receive this award. I want to tell you, I was really touched. It was a wonderful ceremony. Thank you so much. There was many students honored, other organizations, teachers. I felt like I was probably the least talented in the group, as I can hardly carry a tune and have done a little drama work, but it was such an honor to be the recipient and representing Parkway. I do want to say, and I think our board appreciates this, in just the last month and a half, we've had a 4th grade strings day at West High School where the gym is filled twice by 9 elementary schools, and then they move and we bring another full group in. We've had drama performances in the fall and in the winter. Our drama department, we have Chad Little from North here tonight. We just have wonderful, we had an all-district band event a week ago Monday. We had an all-district orchestra at Family Arena. In the fall, we have an all-district choir. All-district elementary was held. It's just amazing when you think about what is done here by our wonderful educators, Jeff Lackey leading that work. I'm so proud that when Parkway, as was noted, the arts are very, very important, have been for a long time, and get tremendous community support. So I'm going to let Jeff Lackey, who really has been a wonderful leader of the fine arts in all areas, and I also missed saying we've had art shows in all our schools and regions. The visual arts are very, very important as well, so I cannot forget that. So Jeff, I know you want to say a few words as well. Jeff Lackey, our coordinator. Jeff?
Yes, I want to say a few words. So thank you. We do have some fine arts staff in the audience. If they could stand, I know we have Chad Little representing theater. We have Linda Rickus representing our strings. We have Stephen Milton representing our visual arts program. Thank you so much for coming out. It's a pleasure to work in our department. We have over 100 fine arts people who work tirelessly, and we really do have a really great program. It's from our teachers, it's from our students, it's from our community. He made a great plug for all the all-district events that we have. We have an all-district art show coming up in a couple weeks. If you'd like to come, it's free of charge at Queenie Park. Be on the lookout for information for that. So again, thank you to the Alliance, and thank you for acknowledging. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Again, congratulations to all of tonight's award winners. Thank you to our teachers, their families, and administrators for joining us for these special recognitions. At this time, we'll take a very quick break and we'll resume the meeting shortly. Wanted to read a couple of additions, corrections, and/or modifications to the agenda tonight. Those include 5.01, addition of agenda item 9.27, approval of upgrade of charter internet service. 5.02, agenda item 9.19, approval of revised Petker Construction GMP amendment, and 6 administrative center site improvements updated and contract added. And 5.03, addendum to agenda item 9.11, approval of personnel items. Next up is public comment, and it's during this time that we provide an opportunity for citizen comments in an effort to maintain an open and respectful dialogue with our community. The public comment session is not the appropriate forum for addressing individually identifiable student and/or personnel matters. Therefore, due to privacy laws protecting students and employees, comments about these matters should not include personally identifiable information about particular students or employees. Members of the public, staff, and students are encouraged to utilize established policies and procedures for offering suggestions or addressing concerns and complaints prior to bringing the issue before the board. Please be mindful that the meetings of the board, including your statements at the podium, are broadcast and that you are responsible for any public comments you make. In lieu of a public statement, you may choose to submit your comments to the board in writing. Also, due to time constraints and the need to complete the primary responsibilities of our meeting agenda, we cannot respond during the meeting, so you will receive a response from us in writing. We're always available to have an open dialogue outside of our meetings and can be reached by email or phone using the contact information on the Parkway website. Tonight we have almost 24 speakers, so unfortunately we're going to have to limit our speakers' time to a minute 30 this evening. I will do my best to let you know in advance who's coming up in order that you signed up, and I will try not to pronounce any names incorrectly. So the first, and I would also ask that when you come up here, you introduce yourself and share with us your affiliation or relationship to the district. So the first 3 speakers we will have are Laura Freeborn, Courtney Woods, and Mary Stallings.
Hi, I'm Laura Freeborn. I am a parent of children at Wren Hollow Elementary. Dear members of our community, I stand before you today with a heartfelt concern for the safety and well-being of our children. In recent discussions, there has been talk of adding another building to our already congested cul-de-sac. While the prospect of growth and expansion may seem promising, we must not overlook the real dangers that such a development could pose to the youngest members of our community. As many of you know, our cul-de-sac is already plagued by traffic, congestion, and safety hazards. Adding another building to this mix would only exacerbate these problems, putting our children at even greater risk as they navigate their way to and from school each day. From speeding cars to limited visibility at crosswalks, the dangers are all too real, and we cannot afford to ignore them any longer. Every child deserves to feel safe and secure in their journey to school, yet the current conditions in our cul-de-sac fall far short of this ideal. We owe it to our children to provide them with a learning environment that prioritizes their safety above all else. It is our moral obligation as a community to ensure that they can arrive at school each day without fear of apprehension. Moreover, the impact of traffic congestion extends beyond just the safety of our children. It affects the entire community. Parents face increased stress and anxiety as they navigate through the maze of cars each morning and afternoon. Residents experience frustration and inconvenience as they contend with the constant flow of traffic in their neighborhood. We cannot continue to turn a blind eye to these issues and pretend that they will simply resolve themselves over time. It's time for us to come together as a community and demand action from our school district officials, which is why we're here today. We cannot allow the safety of our children to be sacrificed in the name of progress or convenience.
Thank you very much. Next up is Courtney Woods.
I come before you today with a matter of great concern, not just for my child, but for all children in our community who deserve equal access and a safe environment. It's my duty as a parent and a member of the community to advocate for rights of all children, including my children with disabilities and medical needs. To start, the field that's existing is currently being described as inaccessible. There's a ramp leading to it that's uneven, therefore it's not ADA compliant. With that lens and concern, I ask the question if any field in the district is accessible and ADA compliant. The field being uneven and inaccessible for wheelchairs should not be a reason to take it away. Using the blacktop currently as a solution should also not be the answer. It should be improved to be accessible and inclusive to all students. My child should not be less deserving of a field because of his disability. What kind of message does that send to our children who we are always educating on inclusion? If the field is taken away, the answer is that the middle school students can leverage the high school fields. That takes a non-disabled individual 15 minutes round trip to walk up and down a hill. Both of my children require rescue meds for their lives, one which is currently being kept with a nurse in the building. There's already a shortage of nurses that I've observed and been impacted by in the district, so how is my son going to be cared for if a medical emergency would occur off campus at a high school? I'm not talking about a scraped knee, a nurse that's familiar with their knee and needs and ready to handle a true medical emergency that's a 7.5-minute walk away. With all that said, I urge the Parkway Board of Education to reconsider the current proposal site for the new center so that all students have the accessibility to a field. I also urge that they fix the current accessibility issues with the current field providing equitable access to all children.
Thank you. Next up is Mary Stallings. She'll be followed by Michael Stallings and Don Connie.
We can hear really well.
I would just ask that we keep the applause to a minimum so we can keep everybody moving through, and you can hear your name being called. So Mary Stallings will speak now, followed by Michael Stallings and Don Connie.
Hello, I would just like to talk about equity. West Middle School has 11.4 acres of green space. Central has 15.4 acres of green space. Northeast Middle School has 17.9, and Southwest has 4.3, which would all be gone. So I think that that's a large problem that needs to be addressed. The biggest problem for me, though, is the idea of transparency. Saying that things like the green area will be enhanced and giving research to support outdoor play for a new preschool when they're obviously taking away, you guys are taking away green space from 2 other schools in the process, doesn't build trust with our community. Saying in the PowerPoint that 14 acres of land are needed as why certain places aren't being evaluated, but then choosing a field that only has 4.3 acres doesn't build trust. Not saying that the ECC will consolidate other ECCs and only actually be taking 73 new preschool spots does not build trust. Saying that they surveyed the teachers and me going to my child's teacher and them having no idea just a month ago about this doesn't build trust. Bringing up the field not being handicapped accessible while expecting students in wheelchairs to get to high school does not build trust. We as parents can see inconsistencies, and we are trusting our students to our children to your care. And I think it's time for a more open and transparent dialogue. Simply put, Parkway's priorities put Wren and Southwest Middle at a disadvantage. I think it's very safe to say that. And sometimes as a community, we have to make sacrifices for the good of others, and that's okay. I'm willing to do that, but I think it's important to look at all of the sides and make sure that the sacrifice is worth it.
Thank you very much. Next up is Michael Stallings. Got a handoff.
Okay, my name is Michael Stallings. My wife and I have 100 kids. 101 almost. Long story short, we are so happy to be here. We love Parkway South. What we don't want is for negative changes coming down the pike to interrupt our children or anyone else's children's wonderful time in this wonderful program. The last meeting where we got together and had this PowerPoint presentation about things to expect and the reasoning behind why we have selected this particular spot for the Early Childhood Education Center left a lot to be desired. Simply put, for traffic, it's a bottleneck. We can't put another 200 cars in an area that's already congested and take minimal measures to mitigate that problem. We can't take a green space and say we'll improve it by making it smaller. We can't expect our children with disabilities to walk almost 275 yards one way up a hill to have recess outside. It is a matter of intellectual integrity to say simply that we can't divorce the reality of economic concerns for where we put this early childhood education center. We got the land, that's wonderful, but it is certainly not the best spot for it. Thank you.
Next up is Ashley Ansell.
Good evening. As members of this school district, we have always championed encouraging the best possible environment for learning and growth. However, the current proposal threatens to compromise the very essence of what makes our schools special, our green spaces. The new school facility that would encroach upon the precious green spaces that our children rely on for physical education and extracurricular activities. While I understand the need for progress and expansion, we must not lose sight of the invaluable benefits that these green spaces provide. These open areas are not just patches of grass. They are essential components of a holistic education. They serve as outdoor classrooms where children learn about the natural world, develop physical fitness, cultivate social skills through play and teamwork. They are havens of tranquility where students can escape the confines of the classroom and connect with nature, fostering a sense of well-being and belonging. By depriving our children of these green spaces, we are depriving them of vital opportunities for growth and development. We are sending the message that education is confined to four walls, neglecting the rich learning experiences that occur in the great outdoors. But it's not just about education, it's about our children's health and happiness. In an age where childhood obesity and mental health issues are on the rise, we cannot afford to limit opportunities for physical activity and outdoor recreation. These green spaces are not expendable luxuries. They are essential resources for promoting a healthy and active lifestyle among our youth. I urge all of us to consider the long-term consequences of sacrificing our green spaces for the sake of convenience or expediency.
My apologies, I skipped over Don Conine. So Don, come on up.
That's
And
okay.
After him will be Jennifer Christensen.
Don't start the clock, though.
Not yet. After him will be Jennifer Christensen and Crystal Shoemaker.
Hi, I'm Don Conine, and I live in Audubon Woods, right down from the elementary and middle schools. Lived there over 25 years. My kids went through Parkway and did a good job. All three got their masters now, so one of them's a teacher. So it's good stuff. I'm here to share two concerns, or share a concern about the new ECC, but also share some information with you. I have a unique view. I'm right down the street. I'm at where Big Bend, Cardinal, and Canary connect, okay? So I get to see a lot of traffic flow. I went to that meeting a couple weeks ago and listened to the traffic report, realized it was only done on Wren, which I see a ton of traffic. So I do have a life, but I decided to spend my whole day counting cars at the exact same time the traffic study was done. Shocked me, shocked my neighbors that we have that much traffic. 7 to 10 a.m. on a Thursday, we had over 412 cars go through that intersection. Very similar numbers for the afternoon, okay? What you didn't see was these cars coming in at the same time, because there was patterns near the times the schools let in and let out, these converging on this intersection at the same time, okay? I've gone to the police at Manchester and told them what's going on. So my concern is, guys, it's not just Wren, it's other places in the community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up is Jennifer Christensen.
So I keep wondering, why are we continuing to push this through? Because the people who are pushing are not actually community members here in our town. They actually live in Wildwood. Some of them are taking the train back to Wisconsin for retirement soon. These people don't belong in our community, and they shouldn't be making decisions for our community. I drive differently in my little part of town. I drive differently because I know the kids. I know who's having a birthday party. I know who's going to have a street hockey game. I know when I come around the corner, I've got to come to a full stop because one of those kids is going to be hauling around the corner to get to school. See, in my town, I have to do that. And I noticed last 2 weeks ago when we came into Southwest, some people didn't know how to get to that four-way stop. They didn't know that you need to make a complete stop, including our own Dr. Marty, who went through that stop sign with 25 to 30 children at that corner. And when I asked him about it, he said, well, I don't know about that, but I was running late. Well, unfortunately, that is the pattern of human behavior, and we cannot change human behavior. You know, I found out just the other day that a child had been hit last year at that four-way stop. He dove off of his bike, but the bike ended up underneath the car, and that car hauled off. No police were involved in that, and that was the end of that. You knew this plan was coming, and you knew for 2 years this plan was coming, but you didn't put a crossing guard in place. There is still no crossing guard there. I saw a child almost get hit yesterday by an adult driving who waved that child on, and that child listened to that adult driver. But the other driver from Sulphur Springs, who was tired of sitting in traffic, jumped ahead and almost hit that child.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Schumacher.
So what I am asking today is that
We need to move on to the next
only
speaker.
you get a crossing guard now,
Ms. Shoemaker,
7:45 to 9:05.
we need to move on to the next speaker, please. You need to yield your time to the next speaker, please. Mrs. Shoemaker, your time is up.
And for God's sake, don't put another 300 cars on that cul-de-sac.
Okay. Next up is Melissa Rezak. She'll be followed by Melissa Copeland and Terry Card.
Hi, so the first thing I'd like to speak about is how you guys are going to take away a field that is being said it's not being used. This is just flat out not the truth. If you go look at the Southwest Middle School's own Facebook page, they will show you photos where they're using it for the solar eclipse viewing and other events throughout the entire year. So where do you expect these students to go whenever that field is taken away and they have nowhere to go? If it's the high school, I urge you, go to Southwest Middle on the weekend and walk down to those high school fields. See if it's a realistic expectation of these students to do that during their gym time. And you will find that it's not. It's a 5-minute walk down a long hill, and then they'll have to come back. It's not realistic in any kind of capacity whatsoever. The other issue is the traffic. It's already so congested. In fact, I don't think you all know this, but one day last month, they had to give the students 15 extra minutes to get to class. This is 15 minutes that they were not in class learning. It's 15 minutes that they had to take away and 15 minutes that they had to use because there was so much traffic they couldn't get in there. And the other thing is as she spoke about, is when you have people who are driving that don't belong to the community, they're not invested in the children's safety and how the children are walking. They aren't aware that children have to walk 1 mile away to get there and get there safely. So I urge you, go there in the morning, sit there, see what the traffic is like, see how it is, because it's dangerous. I've seen multiple children almost get hit myself. I pick my daughter up every day. So I hope we can find a better solution that fits everybody. Thank you.
Nikki, am I on track? Did I miss one? Melissa.
Okay. Hi, I'm Terry Card. I'm going to skip over the pleasantries because we've got time schedule. I am a member of the community, and I love Wren Hollow. I am up there 2 to 3 times a day sometimes. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 times a week. My point is I am invested in the school, invested in the growth of the children and their safety utmost. We live in the neighborhood. Part of our, the reason we wanted to live there is because our children could walk not only to grade school, but middle school and high school. And I feel like with the traffic coming in, not only more school traffic coming in, but all the construction traffic. I mean, that's gonna take ages. And I just wouldn't feel comfortable with my kids walking to school with that. I know a mister said that an additional 200 cars went by, or 300 or 400, whatever it was, when he was tallying. I think he forgot to say 90 of them didn't make a full stop. I mean, what if it's your kid, you know? I feel like we have to think about that. Someone mentioned you guys don't live where we live. How would you feel if your kid was going out there in a potentially unsafe area? And I'm not against having another ECC around. I fully benefit that, just not right here. Maybe have the Sorrento kids come to Wren and just do a makeover and make that the new early childhood center. I just plead and beg that you take us seriously and try to find another space. Find another space. Thank you for your time.
I know we missed Melissa Copeland. Have I missed anybody else that was before her? Melissa Rezick? Okay, you can follow Melissa Copeland.
Okay.
We'll still do Melissa's, just other direction. Other way.
Okay. You already know who I am, Melissa Copeland. Who thought this was a good idea is my first question. A blacktop parking lot for gym class and free time? That parking lot has potholes and a huge grate in the middle of one end. Have any of you gone out and looked at the condition? That parking lot was not paved when the teacher parking lot was paved. It's approximately 229 feet long and 80 feet wide where the children spend their time. For 700 children? So when all the other middle schools have 17 acres to 11 acres, Southwest has 4.3, then we'll have no more. Taking away everything from Southwest Middle for an ECC that you're moving 35 administrators into, 8 classes from other areas to this location. What are you thinking? This doesn't benefit our community. The people won't want their children to attend Southwest Middle. They'll want them to come here to South, to West, Northwest, wherever. Why would you, or why would anyone want their children to go to Southwest Middle? Do you want your children or your grandchildren to attend a school that has nothing for the children?
Thank you. Next up will be Melissa Rezac, followed by Paige Royer and Kayla Neuenswander.
Hi, I'm Melissa Rezac. I am a Southwest Middle parent and a Wren Hollow parent, soon to be a Parkway South parent next year. High school. I would like to share what parents have been saying about the new build, as well as what our parents are as well as what our teachers are saying who are afraid to speak out. This is from a parent. What makes me sad is seeing the smiling faces on our kids, and if the space is removed, these events will no longer happen. This is from a teacher. I don't know how it's going to work. Parent, I have so many pictures of my child using the green space. In fact, it's been used for years. I'm not sure why they keep saying it isn't being used. And I have plenty more going all the way back 3 principals ago at Wren. Teacher, wait. They are just now realizing traffic is a problem. Teacher, Broadway Club is not the reason for the traffic. I will say this is a good example of someone higher up somewhere being way out of touch with the traffic over here. This club has been active for almost 5 years, as a student mentioned at the last Board of Education meeting. Teacher, the traffic and the loss of the green space at Southwest Middle is upsetting. They are going to do a disservice to the students. Parent, when Parkway built Southwest Middle, they closed the road between the high school and Wren Hollow because of the traffic safety concerns. And now the hypocrisy, shameful Parkway. Teacher, sounds like they are just settling on a location and no one thought this through.
Thank you. Next up is Paige Royer.
Hello, my name is Kayla Neuenswander, and my husband and I have 4 children ranging from 5th grade to 3 years old, and we live on the main street of Big Bend Woods Drive. Last year, we lost bus services to school from our home because we live about a half mile away from my children's school, Wren Hollow. So now, twice a day, 5 times a week, we try to either walk or bike to and from school to avoid sitting in or contributing to the traffic. Recently, we discovered that it only takes us 4 minutes to ride our bikes to school, which beats the 20-minute parade of walking my 4 children plus my nephew to school. We weren't but a week into our bike riding era when I watched my kindergarten son almost get hit by a car. I've heard many people mention that this almost happened, but I actually lived it out just a couple weeks ago. My son, who is very responsible and well experienced in riding his bike throughout the neighborhood, came to stop to cross the street near the school. He quickly looked both ways and began to cross the road where the bike racks are. But not all too fast, a car came blazing down the road, screeched on their brakes, while I screamed bloody murder, and my son froze in the middle of the street. It took me, my son, and our neighbor bystanders many minutes to calm down. after the scenes of that morning, right in front of our neighborhood school, in our neighborhood where he normally rides independently. Needless to say, we haven't ridden our bikes to school since, and I want my kids to be able to enjoy the conveniences of having a neighborhood school. And I'm not the only one. There's such a large community of walkers and bikers who cannot fathom adding 200 more driving families to our already overcrowded streets. And I will legitimately be walking that same route with my children for the next 17 years, twice a day, 5 days a week, so I don't
Thank you, Ms. Royer. Paige Royer.
Hello, my name is this not on anymore? Okay. My name is Paige Royer, and I'm a parent to 4 children within the Parkway South area. I'm the best candidate and example of someone who would greatly benefit from a new ECC here. But to that point, why would I want to take away from my 2 older children who attend Wren Hollow and Southwest Middle to better benefit my 2 younger children, when there are plenty of other options to build an ECC to benefit all children, including the new ECC families and current Wren Hollow and Southwest Middle students? In the last meeting, the director of the current ECC emphasized how important outside learning will be for the new children who will attend the newly built ECC. Wouldn't it make sense that this would also be the case for the elementary and middle school students too, who utilize that field? Seems a bit contradicting. Right now is a time our children need recreational space more than ever. Screens and phones are increasingly becoming a larger issue in our world today, and by taking away that field that so many students utilize, including 2 of my children, on a regular basis, would only add to that. During the last meeting, I specifically asked Dr. Marty if he could guarantee a spot for my 2-year-old and my 1-year-old, as that seems to be one of the reasons that is being presented as to building the ECC in the 63021 area. I got no answer. And just a response of, "That's a great question. Did I write that down?" Which in fact I did. Along with many other questions and concerns, I've yet to receive or see any responses to the very long list. When I inquired information of the current ECC in the past, I was told it's a lottery system and tuition-based, and therefore the small amount of open spots to new students in the ECC won't benefit students in the area or even those who reside in Parkway.
Thank you, Ms. Royer. Thank you. Okay. Next up is Kim Frisbee, followed by Susan Honig and Christy Heffley. Kim Frisbee. Kim Frisbee.
Susan Honig. Although I'm not a parent, I am a grandparent of 8 wonderful children. Several of them attend school right here at Wren Hollow. I've listened to all the comments tonight, and I've been in many meetings over the years. I will say I'm only hoping and praying that the right thing is to be done for the sake of all of the children of this beautiful neighborhood. The safety issue is paramount. It is also the secondary conclusion that the area next to Wren Hollow needs to be continued for places for children to work, play. So basically not a lot of comments. I think all of your prior ones are well put, but I'm just hoping and praying that you all realize this would be a major mistake. And I hope and pray that someday a child who has been hit, is on the evening news, doesn't have to, parents realize it was because of a decision made here at this board. Thank you.
Next up is Kim Frisbee.
Hi, my name is Kim Frisbee. I'm a parent, and I have 2 children attending Wren Hollow right now. One who has one more year, and then will move on to the middle school. I have another kid who will also be joining elementary. So safety and the lack of green space are both issues that will continue in my household for many years. I was asking my kids, when is the green space used? My first grader told me that 1st and 5th grade frequently has recess at the same time. So they've been dividing it up, so 1st grade goes on one field, the playground area, and then maybe the 5th grade goes to the other field. So the field between Wren and Parkway West. So the field is being used. It's also being used when it's muddy outside, when it's rainy and when it's snowy, and then that the elementary school field cannot be used. They are going to the fields that's used between the two schools, per my first grader. It's also been used by my 4th grader. He says it's been used for field days. And I'm sure it's being used for PE for middle schoolers. If you take away that green space, where are they to play kickball? Where are they to play baseball? Are you telling them that they're going to play on the pavement? What kind of enrichment is that? What kind of play space is that? Wouldn't you?
Thank you very much. Next up is Christy Heffley, and she'll be followed by Nora Fedek and Tom Walker.
Hi, I'm Christy Hafley. I have 2 kids at Wren. And I believe that the primary reason why Wren Hollow, why that space was chosen was because you guys were being good stewards of taxpayer dollars. And that makes sense to me because I am about as cheap as they come. So I see a resource and like, yeah, let's hold on to that. But there's some places that you can't make those compromises. Like we don't buy the cheesy potatoes at Aldi's. That's not a good compromise. We learned some things. And so I'm hoping that you guys have learned a few things as you've gone through this process. Like maybe at the beginning of the process, you didn't know how bad the traffic actually was. Maybe you didn't know that it's a 1/4 mile, 13% grade down to the fields at South High. That's not okay for our students that have disabilities. Maybe you didn't realize that the field is actually used pretty much every day, and it's actually rented out over 80% of the days during April by outside community members. Maybe you just didn't realize how many kids walk to Wren and to Southwest Middle that are going to be impacted by this traffic. Maybe you didn't know that Canary Estates residents already had runoff problems because of the drainage caused by Southwest and Wren Hollow already. But now you do know. And as Maya Angelou said, when you know better, you do better. So you guys have a choice to make. And that is like, are you going to use this knowledge to figure out a better solution for where this early childhood center goes? We're not opposed to that early childhood center, but this is not a good spot for it. Thank you.
Next up is Nora Fedek.
Hi. Hello, I am Nora Fedek, a 5th grade student at Wren Hollow. I am here to talk about the proposed ECC. I live on the corner of Mallard Woods Drive and Big Bend Woods Drive. We have a stop sign that seems to be more of a suggestion sign to drivers, including Parkway bus drivers. This stop sign is run every day. And being a walker, this is scary, thinking about adding 200 plus more cars. I have grown up here, so I'm used to the traffic, but turning onto Wren Avenue, there's not always a crossing guard to help us cross the street safely. Also, the ECC will be taking away field for middle school and elementary school. The field is used for field days at elementary school. Field days are so fun, and thinking about field days getting taken away from younger kids that haven't had them is very upsetting. Also, after-school activities will not have a field to be on. Southwest Middle has one field that is getting taken away. How is that fair? So, you will be taking away a lot of space and field from us. So as a community, please don't take away our field.
Next up is Tom Welker, be followed by Randy Welker. And she'll be followed by Colin Christensen.
Good evening. I'm Tom Welker. I'm a Parkway resident. I live in the city of Manchester. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss tonight. Let's talk money. $265 million, 33% of your overall net asset replacement value. Why aren't we building new schools? Why are we building a new ECC? Why can't you rebuild some of these elementary schools and put the ECCs in them? You've stated publicly the average age of your schools are 54 years old, 21 of which are 50 to 83 years old. 2 of them are less than 44. Well, math says that's 23. I'm still trying to figure out the other 6. I'm assuming they fall between 44 and 50. But the question begs, why aren't we looking at, you've got a bond covering 6 years. Why aren't you strategically looking at how you can start replacing these schools? Your own list of elements talk about roof replacements, window replacements, doors, asphalt. You're going to eventually have to rip all that new stuff that you just spent millions of dollars on out when you replace these schools. Now is the time. And in a final note, I've been doing some homework. There's a lot of references to these intersections and crossing guards. There are specific ordinances in the city of Manchester that only a police officer or a traffic signal are permitted to wave children through these intersections. So I'd ask you to take a look at that. Thank you.
Next up is Randy Welker.
Good evening. I'd just like to thank you guys for taking the time to listen to us as we keep coming to you and sharing our concerns. I'd like to talk tonight as the senior class president in the class of 2018 from Parkway South, and someone that has maintained a very close relationship with, I'd say, at least half of my class of 460 and a good amount of our teachers from both Wren, Southwest Middle, and South High. While I spent some time subbing for Parkway recently before entering a new full-time job, I spent a lot of time talking with them about these concerns and how much they benefited me while I was there and looked out for our well-being and our mental health and everything. And so I'm standing here tonight as members of our class could not be here, as the teachers that I spoke with could not be here to share their concerns as fear of losing their jobs, living in different states, and just being unable to be here. So I appreciate you taking the time to listen to us. I know this is not easy, and I do know that we need to respect your time as well as what you're asking of us. So I hope that you're able to take small parts of what we share with you tonight into consideration. Thank you.
Next up is Colin Christensen. He'll be followed by Lindsay Quaitman and Stacy. We'll get to Stacy. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Colin. Hi, I'm Colin Christensen, and I'm a fourth grade student at Wren Hollow. Every month we do this monthly chart where at the end of the month we get to play at the field. If that field gets taken away, we will not be able to do that anymore. All the students enjoy being able to go out there and play on the field. There are many activities being held there throughout the year. When I get to middle school, I don't want to waste my PE time walking to South High School when it could be spent in playing sports and games. I also want to be able to use the field after lunch, like the other kids do now. So please don't take our field. Let it stay green. Let it stay there and be green for all the schools to use.
Next up is Lindsay Quaitman, followed by Stacy Maidlow.
Good evening. My name is Lindsay Cotman, and I am here to give a voice to our district's youngest learners. So I have been lucky enough to be the full-day preschool teacher at Wren Hollow in the cabin in the back for the past 17 years. I am really excited at the opportunity to create a new fancy early childhood center with enhanced green space for our students and our community to access. As I said, I've been at the cabin for 17 years and have visual access to the field that we keep speaking of. And the honest truth is, it's not utilized consistently at all throughout the school day. And that was echoed by both the Wren Hollow principal and the Southwest principal at our community meeting a few weeks ago. We are excited to take that space and enhance it into an area that all 3 campuses can access and have access to that green space with. Additionally, as we speak of equity for all of our students, I'd just like to add that half of our student body receives early intervention services. We accept all children with open and accepting arms exactly where they are at. We've received many students, unfortunately, expelled from other area child care centers and support them in developing the skills needed to be successful in Parkway Kindergarten. And our Early Learning Steering Committee has been working very diligently to address equity gaps to ensure that all children are able to access our high-quality early childhood education. And we truly are thrilled that the new Early Childhood Center was approved by our community in 2022, and we thank you all for supporting our district's youngest and most valuable, not most valuable, pardon me, vulnerable learners. Thank you guys very much.
Next up is Stacy Maidlow.
Hello, I'm Stacy Maidlow. I share the same concerns as everybody else about the ECC. We definitely support a new early childhood center. One of the biggest concerns for having a new center is that the area code 63021 zip code is of the highest need. And I agree. I have two kids that, two that have gone through the ECC, and it's been wonderful. One went to the West location, and the other one went to Wren Hollow for a little while. I loved it, but all of my kids have gone to KinderCare, and I've loved that as well. Part of the concern is that price. I'm going to tell you right now, the price of KinderCare is actually a couple of dollars less a month than what the ECC would be. I could get into the numbers, but then you've got sibling discounts and things like that. I need before and after care, and to have before and after care and a full day, the price is very, very comparable. The problem is also that with 63021 being the highest need, the lottery system does not support that. I'm in 63021, and I finally was offered a spot this past summer for my daughter, but unfortunately couldn't take it because of scheduling. So I really, really hope that, if 63021 is of the highest need, that those are the students that are most impacted by this. I obviously have the same concerns. The green space being taken from my 5th grader and my 2nd grader, and one's going to 6th grade next year. So thank you for your time.
Thank you all very much. We do appreciate the time that you took to be here and the communication that we've received before tonight, and we'll look forward to a work session tonight to learn a little bit more about what's been going on the last few weeks and get some more questions answered. So we appreciate your time. Next up, may I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda for the regular meeting of the Board of Education as scheduled for April 11th, 2024. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. The next regular board meeting will take place on Wednesday, May 15th, 2024, beginning at 7 p.m. here at the Parkway Welcome Center. The spring board workshop will take place on Saturday, April 20th, beginning at 8 a.m. at the Welcome Center. And now we'll move on to board and superintendent reports. Yep.
All right. First off, thanks for everybody who spoke tonight. We do appreciate you taking the time out of your evening tonight, and I'll definitely share my comments regarding the ECC during our work session later on in the meeting. Then two other things quickly for myself. One, I did attend the Missouri School Board Association Lobby Day on Tuesday, going to advocate for public schools in Jefferson City. It is a challenge still. We still have a lot of animosity towards public schools in Jefferson City, and I would say if you can, reach out to your representative, both your local House rep and your Senate rep, and talk to them about Senate Bill 2727. It will essentially shift money towards private schools with no funding mechanism into the future. Therefore, right now, they will move money over, and then in the future, where the budget cuts come, it's going to come back to public schools. There is no plan to fund their plan to move money from public education to private schools without the same accountability also. So I encourage you to look into that, Senate Bill 727. And the other piece then too is just the fact that I thank all the voters who came out on April 2nd. I'm thankful for the election, both myself and Kevin, to the school board for another 3-year term. And I'll just share one quick story, the fact that the campaign can be up and down. I'll say this campaign was better than 6 years ago for sure. But the best time we had was the last 2 hours of election day. Both Kevin and I met up at West High. Both of us had a daughter with us. And we used them as part of our appeal because his daughter, Millie, at Belle Reeve, a 3rd grader, first person would walk up and she would go, "Vote for my dad." And then I can actually point. My oldest daughter here, Parkway South High grad, would say, "Vote for my dad too." So whether they voted for us or not, it got a smile out of them. Made their day a little happier, whether they voted for us or not, but that is the reason we're here. We're here for our kids and for all the Parkway kids.
thank you to all the speakers. We are listening, we are hearing, we are taking what you are telling us into account. Don't think it's on deaf ears. I just wanted to mention that. Hope everyone had a great spring break. It was a nice little break. It's been a busy couple of months. Congrats to Matt and Kevin on their reelection. Some things I did in between the last board meeting, I did tour the proposed ECC site to take a look at what we're looking at. I saw the green space that we're looking at changing. I saw the proposed enhancements that are being looked at. It was very interesting. Something that many of us, if not all of us, attended over the weekend was the 70th anniversary event at Grants Farm for Parkway employees and staff. It was a truly amazing event. I have to give kudos to Elisa Tomich back there. She and her team did an amazing job. I went with my youngest daughter. We had a great time. We fed the goats, we fed the llamas. It was absolutely wonderful, and every single staff member that came up to me just raved about the event. This morning, I attended the North High Special Olympics. It is one of my favorite events. I try and get to all of the school Special Olympics. It's something very near and dear to my heart. Just seeing the pride that the students at North had and the fun that the athletes were having is just incredible. And then something I forgot to mention last month is I did get to go to 6th grade camp, something I try and do every year. I got to ride a horse. His name was Hawk. I felt really bad for the horse, as he probably hasn't been ridden on someone as large as me, but he did great. It was a wonderful time. The kids had a great time. And looking forward to another busy month for the board.
Jeffrey, I hope Hawk was a Clydesdale, like we saw at the Grants Farm event last weekend. But it would have been the same for me. It would have been the same for me had I been there. You know, part of what we did earlier this evening was something that we do routinely during regular board meetings, and that's recognitions of staff and students in the district who have done something exemplary. Oftentimes it's in, obviously, areas of academics and sometimes extracurricular activities, and I'm just always reminded what a vibrant and special group we have here in Parkway, really throughout the entire district. I tip my hat to Dr. Birch, who's still here. He's the elementary school principal of the year and the principal at my children's school, and he and his team have done a wonderful job of creating an inclusive and special environment for teaching and learning, so excited for him. I'll be brief because I know we've already been pretty far down the road tonight, and I just want to mention also the 70th anniversary celebration. You know, when we all here who have a vested interest in Parkway think about creating a special district where students, teachers, and staff want to be part of a community, that's just the kind of thing that I think really separates and differentiates us. I mean, it was an incredible event. So much merriment and mirth was being had by everybody. Just so much revelry and fun. Everybody was having a great time, and it was a community feeling. And it felt really great to be part of that community in some way. So that was wonderful, and I think it helped everybody from a morale standpoint. It was fantastic.
So I'll echo my board members on my, what is that left?
Yes.
As to the Parkway 70th anniversary, and also to welcoming back our board members after their reelection. Last month, I did have an opportunity right before spring break to read Dr. Seuss's One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish to Mrs. Edelman's third grade class at Shenandoah Valley. They were a great group of kids, and I really appreciated being asked to do that. I don't know if many of you guys know, but education has been a passion of mine for most of my life, and anytime I have an opportunity to work with students, be around students, it just brings delight and energy to me. So it was a great opportunity. I thank the teachers for allowing me to come. This month, I attended the Project Parkway Steering Committee meeting. This is where we reviewed the data from the thought exchange that went out earlier last month and to the Parkway community. And we also started to identify measurable outcomes to the 5 strategies that we've been that have been presented several times before. And then the last thing I already said, and that was the 70th anniversary. And that is it for me today. Thank you.
Thank you. Sounds like we've all had pretty similar months, at least Parkway-wise. Yeah, obviously, the Grants Farm experience was wonderful. It's great to be a part of something that has almost universal approval rating throughout the district, as not everything does, including this kind of the big subject at hand tonight, which segues into what I wanted to say about the election, which is, yes, it is an honor to be reelected. I very much appreciate it. And as Matt pointed out, the highlight of election day for me also was campaigning with our daughters, which was really, really fun. But, you know, the next morning, when you kind of look at the tallies, and yes, it's very flattering to receive several thousand votes, but you also look down, even when you win or come in second to Matt again, you notice that several thousand people voted for somebody else too. And, you know, we sit up here not just representing the people that voted for us, but this whole community, including the people that may disagree with us about certain things. And to me, that's the biggest part of leadership is once we're sitting up here, we're here for everybody. And, you know, for my part, I want to try to do a better job of listening and taking into account all the viewpoints of this community and trying to be the best leader I can be for the next 3 years.
Well, my congratulations go to both Matt and Kevin. We're very proud of you for the campaigns that you ran and led Parkway very proud. So thank you. We're so blessed to have a school board that we do have that, as someone suggested in the forum, that we do have robust debate amongst ourselves, and yet we can still come to terms and have respectful dialogue and decision-making with one another, and that's how we like it. And so I'm looking forward to continuing on with these two re-elected board members to continue the important work that we're doing here, and to also recognize the comments that were made tonight. I also did go to take a look at the proposed DCC site and do some of my own digging into matters on this. And so I'm looking very forward to hearing in our work session tonight, some of the information that our team here is going to be presenting. So I look forward to hearing more about that. I also attended, in addition to the Project Parkway Steering Committee and going to the Grants Farm event, which was just superior. We've not ever done anything like that. So it was a huge boost to our staff, and greatly appreciated the time and the effort from our administrators for doing that. We also attended with Mr. Todd, Dr. Marty, the religious leaders meeting. We very much in Parkway, we have a very diverse community, as you know, and we want to be very respectful of our various different religions that are represented throughout. And so we meet with different leaders throughout the community who are ministers, pastors, rabbis, et cetera, various different religions throughout the Parkway footprint. And so we have very interesting conversation there to make sure that we're still being respectful to how the community operates certain functions and gatherings, et cetera, in light of the various different religious practices that people have throughout the district. So I very much was appreciative of being part of that meeting for that day.
Thank you. Also want to extend my congratulations to Matt and Kevin. We're pleased to have them continue on and not have a learning curve. That's a little bit of a bonus. But a couple other things that I've participated in addition to some of the things that we've done as a group. I was asked to be a judge at Chartwell's, who provides the food service for Parkway. They held a Discovery Kitchen cook-off between all of the different high schools. And it was an exciting event. Patty Bedborough, our CFO, was one of the judges. Diane Brown, who heads our nurses, she was a judge, and we had meals prepared by groups of students from each of the high schools, and it was a great morning. I also want to thank Rachel Mintz, who's with Chartwell's, for putting this whole thing together, and our own chef, Jay Katz, who's a Parkway graduate, and he was very much in tune with the needs of the students that morning, especially making sure they were safe. So that was good. Dr. Marty and I attended the All-District Honor Band concert a couple of weeks ago, or a week and a half ago. And as he mentioned, those programs are just amazing. And my kids are now graduated from Parkway, and so I go back and I think about the times that they were in those events, or I was in those events as a kid, and they're really great, and underscores the comments that were made earlier about Parkway's Fine Arts program. I too want to thank Elisa and her team on the outstanding efforts to have a day that we can truly recognize and celebrate our staff. We've got about 3,000 employees in Parkway, and they work really, really hard to take good care of our kids and each other. And we were fortunate to be able to celebrate them in such a unique and meaningful way. And lastly, I want to mention that the Alumni Association, Parkway Alumni Association, is sponsoring Parkway Day at the ballpark. So there's a Cardinals game on May the 19th, and for $30 you get a field box seat, plus a hot dog, plus a drink, and I think there's a couple of giveaways that day. So if you're interested in joining a bunch of Parkway people at the ball game that day, reach out to the Alumni Association, or if you can't find them, just send me an email and I'll get you connected.
Thank you. From the administration, we also want to congratulate Matt and Kevin on your reelection. And Matt, thank you for going to Jefferson City on Tuesday and advocating. And Parkway already sent information to our legislators on Senate Bill 727. Very concerned. I think you stated it very well. And we're down the home stretch, and so I would encourage people to really watch what's going on in Jefferson City, as this is a time where sometimes legislation happens very fast, and we have to really keep an eye on what's going on. And that bill it's got some concerns, of which I know the superintendent's going to talk about tomorrow at Ed Plus. Also, just echoing a little bit about Saturday, and I just want to thank, again, our communication people, Kathy Dodge, Elisa, Annie Dickerson, and really did a great job. But I also want to mention we have 5 wonderful sponsors. Moira McCracken is here tonight. Our PNEA was a sponsor. The Parkway Alumni Association, Raising Cane's, Waterworks, and United Healthcare all really contributed in some fashion to that day. And thanks to the board for your support as well. It was a great day. Still getting thank yous and good feelings. And for me, it was just a great day of all staff and families. I know sometimes we don't include all staff, but this was a day for bus drivers, custodians, educators, everyone. And thanks for all your support. We didn't talk about something that happened Monday. I'm kind of surprised we didn't talk about the eclipse, but I spent it with Kevin Seltzer and his family at Northeast Middle. That was a good day, and I congratulate our staff and our teachers and our STEM coordinators for really organizing and making sure all our students had glasses and all staff had appropriate eye care. I didn't hear any problems with that, so we had a great day. I also just want to mention the voters forum that took place, or the candidate forum that took place. Our League of Women Voters, who we sent a thank you to, did a wonderful job again of really doing a job of organizing that. They do several of those around the region. I had also spoke right after spring break to the West Middle School National Honor Society, Junior National Honor Society. I think I've said this before, but all our middle schools now do a National Honor Society at the middle school. And just a great night. So just a wonderful opportunity to really understand and appreciate achievement by our younger students. Jeff already mentioned the baseball game. Please consider attending. And that kind of is also a great time because our graduations are that's the weekend we start graduations and continue them into the next week. And Jeff, you must have missed the fact that I was dodging a tornado on the night of the all-district band concert.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
It was Kevin Becker that spent the night with me.
Kevin and I.
Yeah, Kevin and I. I had to turn around because my grandchildren were scared to death, so I didn't make it. But anyway, that was a wonderful evening for everyone. Special Olympics today. Again, thanks for Jeffrey. That was a great day, and the weather turned out very well. Thank you.
Next up is our consent agenda. We've all had an opportunity to review that. So may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented in the April 11th, 2024 board materials?
So moved.
Second.
Anything to be pulled to action or closed? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. We have no individual action items tonight. However, we do have policy review. We've all had an opportunity to review these. They include 11.01 GBA.BP exempt and non-exempt employees, 11.02 GBE.BP staff and health and safety, 11.03 GBBDA.BP family and medical leave, 11.04 HA.BP negotiations with employee representatives, 11.05 Section K policies. Again, as I mentioned, we've had an opportunity to review these, and these policies will be up for approval at the next Board of Education meeting. We have no official reports tonight, so I will move on to 13.01, our work session on the proposed South Area Early Childhood Center. So I'd like to invite Elisa Tomich, our Chief Communications Officer, Ralph Neese, Director of Facilities, Elena Amaralt, Director of Early Learning, and Andrea Riganti, City of Manchester Planning, Zoning, and Economic Development Director, to join us.
Good evening, members of the board. President Todd, Vice President Hopper, members of the board, Dr. Marty and Ms. Stover. We're here tonight to present you with an update on our proposed South Area Early Childhood Center, as well as the feedback that we've been receiving from the community. So I have a group up here afterwards. If you have questions, then I've got some experts here to help answer them. So we had a big meeting on March 26th. We had about 150 people, as you can see here on the slide, that filled the Commons area of Southwest Middle School, eager to learn more details about our proposed Early Childhood Center for the South area. We wanted to make sure that we provided them with not just an update, but context, greater understanding as to the why, not just about expanding early childhood, but the reason we chose the site that we chose. And we also wanted to take this as an opportunity to get their feedback, not just from those who would come to a microphone, but from everyone in the room. And so this was a great opportunity to do that. So before I get into the feedback, I just want to remind the board that community input is exactly how we got here. So it was the community that for several years was demanding and requesting more early childhood space. Over the years, they've told us they wanted more space in a number of ways through Project Parkway community meetings in 2021, as well as through surveys done by mail and phone, thought exchanges, and other forms of community engagement. Those discussions then folded into the data. So for more than a decade, we've had between 300 and 600 kiddos who've been on wait lists to enter our early childhood programs. And so while that speaks very highly about the different programming that we provide, it's also really heartbreaking to turn kids away. So in 2021, we conducted a demographic and market study to see if this demand warranted a new facility. And that study confirmed that it did, but it also showed that 63021 was the zip code that had the highest concentration of need in the district. So this all became the backdrop of what this board discussed. In the fall of 2021, you might remember the board started to hold different workshops around what would be included in the next bond campaign. The early childhood facility was one of those items that you discussed that fall. And in December 2021, Elena Amaralt appeared before you to give the early childhood report. She presented data that demonstrated the need for expansion in the South area. And then in May of 2022, you held a bond survey discussion. The new Early Childhood Center also included at that point a conversation around including TLA staff on the lower level. So as you can recall, back, I think before, it was prior to 2018, well before my time here, TLA and student services were housed in the building that now is McKelvey Primary. That building was renovated and refurbished. Now students are using it, and TLA has since been using leased space in Creve Coeur, so we definitely wanted to get them back on campus. In June of 2022, the Board of Education approved the project list for Proposition S, and the new Early Childhood Center was among the projects that you approved. And then finally, in November of 2022, voters approved Proposition S by an overwhelming margin. So the largest bond issue in Parkway history was approved by about 48,000 voters in our community, or about more than 76% of the vote. And a major component of that was constructing a second early childhood center to meet the increasing need for early childhood and preschool programs that were exceeding our current capacity. So from there, the district started evaluating the needs. What would we need a new facility to provide? We definitely needed to serve more families. And we also needed to take a look at what we were providing families in the locations, at the satellite locations in the South area. So the locations that we have early childhood classrooms at Oak Brook, Barrett's, Wren Hollow, and Carmen Trail, they weren't designed for kids for this age level. And so we wanted to put them in a space that was designed for them, and a place where they could have outdoor learning activities and 100% inclusive classrooms and play areas. And again, space for TLA on the lower level to save the district on lease payments. So our facilities team had a pretty good handle on what the district had in terms of different site availability. So they did take a look at what was on the market, but they also took a pretty strong look too at what we had in the South area. And so these are a number of locations that the community has asked us about. And I'm not going to go into each bullet point here, but there were a number of liabilities that these locations had that really made them consider the location on Wren Avenue more strongly. So here is the location that is our proposed site right now. It is the field, as you can see, that's right there between Southwest Middle School on the right and Wren Hollow Elementary on the left with the red dot on it. The field extends up, and the site also includes the 2 ponds that you can see that are above Southwest Middle School. So a few of the board members mentioned we went out and took a tour with a facilities team as well as the engineer and the architect not that long ago. And when you go out there and you hear about the potential for the outdoor classrooms, and you see the ponds and how those could be renovated and the paths extended around them, you can really envision you can understand why our director of early learning is so excited about this location and the opportunities that we're going to have to serve more kids at that site. So once our kids are there, here's what they're going to have. They're going to be spending a lot of time outside. The site is going to offer nature trails, the restoration of the ponds. One of the things that the middle school principal mentioned is the fact that the ponds will be fully stocked, and the students at Southwest can do their PE units around fishing actually using the ponds rather than going into the gym and learning how to fish on the gym floor. There will be ADA brand new nature-themed playgrounds, 2 outdoor learning classrooms, and partnerships opportunities with the 2 schools on either side. So principals at both schools on March 26th spoke about their excitement around that and how having the Early Childhood Center there not only will expand the different types of learning opportunities their students will have, but also leadership opportunities that their kids will have just with being able to be buddies and doing different ways of partnering with the kiddos at the Early Childhood Center. So we want to explore different ways that we can collaborate with the neighborhood and the community through community gardening. I'm sure there are many other opportunities there too. This will definitely be a state-of-the-art location, facility. You can see an example of the outdoor playscape that potentially could be at the site. So this is an architectural rendering of what the building will look like on the outside. And you can see from the list of features that it will have on the inside, you can see how it will serve children in a lot of different ways. So not just the classrooms and the outdoor play and learning spaces, but the therapy and intervention rooms, the occupational therapy and physical therapy spaces. There will be a gym and a storm shelter. The gym will be the storm shelter. There'll be areas for play-based screening, as well as support offices, conferences, and meeting space. One thing that we hear that having this location will solve is teachers in the satellite locations can't collaborate. So this will allow them the opportunity to collaborate and work together and serve students in a much different way than they're doing right now. So I wanted to include this slide. This is one of the slides that the principal at Southwest Middle School presented on the 26th in talking about how he feels that the Early Childhood Center will really enhance the space, the field next door. He talked about the trails behind Southwest Middle School being improved and how his students would benefit from that. He talked about the ponds I mentioned, fully stocking that with fish and allowing students to go outside and learn how to fish there. And but just the opportunity to have just different kinds of learning spaces. When we took a tour of the site, the area behind Southwest Middle right now, it just isn't maintained as well as I think it will be when this place is fully up and running. But he also really is enthusiastic about the partnership opportunities. The principal at Wren Hollow, Dr. LaShonda Johnson, shared similar sentiments and also talked about just the opportunities that the space will provide for her students. So going back to March 26th, we provided, it was mentioned here earlier, we provided an update about a 40-minute presentation that was led by subject matter experts on everything from the architectural plans to how water runoff would be addressed to the traffic impact study. So we had the traffic engineer there talk about the different recommendations that were included in the study, and that study right now is being reviewed by the City of Manchester. We wanted to get a sense from those who were in the room. We wanted to know what surprised them that they heard, what they liked about the plan, what concerns they had, and what suggestions they might have to improve it. And so for about 20 or 25 minutes, there were facilitated small group discussions around those 4 prompts. And everything that was said was written down on large sheets of paper. So, and then after that, participants got up and they moved around the room. They saw how other tables had responded, and they sticker voted. So if there was something that resonated with them, they put a sticker by it. And that's how we could determine what aspects they were most passionate about. The communications team took all this. There was about 300 line items of feedback. We put it into a spreadsheet, and we used AI to break it into themes. And we put all this on our website. We also were able to determine what different things that people cared most about. So I included this slide just to give you a sense of the volume. So if you go to our website under what concerns did you have, these were the following themes that we heard in response. And then we broke that down further and synthesized that into something a little bit more digestible for this board and for the administration to consider as you discuss the location and make decisions in the future. But one thing we heard loud and clear, and you've heard this tonight as well as other times when people have come to the podium to speak about this, there are pretty strong concerns about traffic and safety, and that's something they want this administration and the board to do something about when it comes to this project. There is strong support for the green space renovations and the outdoor learning benefits that would benefit all schools in the community. There's also quite a difference in perception between what they heard principals say, and so when they hear that schools say that the field is underutilized, that doesn't square with the perception in the community as to how often the field is used. So that was something else that we heard in the feedback. There's strong dissatisfaction with the site that we've selected. And there's also a strong feeling that the plan should benefit local and current students at Wren, Southwest, as well as the neighboring community. So with all that, I'm gonna just turn it over to you guys and see if you have any questions or any feedback. And I wanna add, in addition to these 3, we also had Patty Bedbrough here who can also answer questions.
I was just going to thank you all for being here to present that. And I know everybody's got some different questions. I'll just start with one of the most recent things you mentioned, the perception of field use. I've visited the site a number of times in the last couple of months. I've asked students and teachers and administrators, do you use the field? The people that I've talked to have said no, but clearly we're hearing that the field is used. Now, in a meeting with Dr. Marty recently, he shared that we have learned that there are groups that rent the field on a somewhat regular basis, and we don't have that information as far as how often
We
that is
do.
used. I'm sorry.
Well, we do have the information as far as how often that does happen.
So,
Yeah.
so that would be helpful to have. And I know is that generally outside of the normal school day?
It is outside the normal school day. And I can tell you that I took a look, we did run those numbers. I took a look in 2023, just for one calendar year. I took a look at that particular field usage and then also the field usage that's on the other side of Wren. The field that's between, well, the site is the new ECC Center site, is what in 2023 was used 23 times, at least according to those who signed up to use it. And the field on the other side of Wren was used more than 130 times. So that field's in better shape. It just gets a lot more use from the community among people who sign up to use it.
And what is involved in signing up to use it? Is that like for Parkway-sponsored events, or are you talking about non-Parkway sponsored events?
Either. It could be anyone it could be a Girl Scout troop, it could be someone who wants to use it for baseball practice, so it could be for any number of reasons.
Yeah, I've got a question. So when the Proposition S came out, the ECC was at a different proposed site. What is the reason that site is no longer viable?
So Ralph, do you want to answer that?
Our original working method was always at Southwest
Right.
Middle.
Different area.
But it was the other side of Southwest Middle. And as we started to explore that and brought in our experts, whether it be the bond folks, bond architect, their civil engineers, we quickly learned that there was going to be a lot of added expenses to support a building as far as structurally, because the land falls off at a fairly steep grade. And then subsequently, they also found out that because we are starting to encroach upon the creek down there, the name escapes me, sorry.
Fishpot.
Fishpot, thank you. I should know that, we talk about it every other Monday. That we encroach upon that. So then there was also the process we'd have to go through to get DNR credits from the Department of Natural Resources in the state of Missouri, which can be cause some other concerns that we had. So once we started to look at that, then we started, realizing where we were. Then we engaged the two principals, because at that point we were still looking at adding capacity to this complex, if you will. And within those discussions, it came up from the two principals. They said, what about the space between the buildings? Originally, myself and the predecessor to the construction manager I have now, we did not consider that because we thought that it was more utilized than what we were led to believe once we talked to the principals. So once the principal said that area was available and they thought it was a good idea to go ahead and pursue that, that's what led us to where we're at now.
I don't know the question for. We talked at that meeting in March about traffic analysis, and I think at that point, we had not received the comprehensive report. Is that still the case?
We do have the preliminary impact study. So that's on our website right now.
Right,
Yeah.
the preliminary.
The preliminary, right.
But
We don't
we're-
have the final.
We're still waiting on a final. Okay. The next part of this isn't a question that I expect anyone to have an answer to tonight, but I would like to, as this evolves and we explore options, to have a little clarity on how this would look if we were to bifurcate the projects from a financial standpoint, from a traffic standpoint, from a use of the space standpoint. Right now, the project calls for TLA to be housed within the same facility. And I understand the economics of scale of doing it that way. And it very well may be that it doesn't make sense to do it another way. But I do think it would be helpful for us to know what it might look like if we were to have two separate plans, one for TLA, one for ECC. Because I think we all agree that we want there to be a new ECC center. We want it to be in the geographic area of need. We also want to make, it would be good stewards of the community as well. So the more information we can gather before coming to a decision, I think the more helpful it'll be to all of us. So I would, however that looks, I'd like to encourage a second, another option that we can look at together. Well, thank you, but I want to have all the information we could possibly have. And if it's a non-starter, it's a non-starter, but if we could get that information too.
That's not a problem. We've already started some of that, I just don't have it ready.
Okay.
Another question that I have, because we've been talking about this idea of what if we pulled TLA out, and what would that look like if, for green space, for traffic, and if that's not part of the ECC project, could we take a look at what that might look like? So I think that's to tag on to what you just were talking about.
You said it briefer than I did.
Huh?
You said it more succinctly than I did.
So I think that's an important piece, because does it really make sense for TLA to be there with ECC, even though it may have been originally part of what we were looking at as the bond project? Now we've had some new information, and perhaps we can come up with a different plan for TLA. And what would that look like? What would the impact of that be on green space and traffic? The other question that I have, though, is caught my attention tonight. On one of the slides, you talked about consolidating some of the ECCs into this building, right? So you're going to take the ECCs that are in other buildings and consolidate them into this building. But then we're talking about there's a need in 63021, but what's that additional capacity then going to be able to be to bring in more students already with the students that we have? How many students will this building handle, and what does that look like if we're consolidating ECCs into this building? How many more students are we going to be able to accommodate, and does that still meet the need of the community?
Yes, so part of our early learning steering committee work, we took a look at the need for consolidation as well as expansion, and so this project will encompass both. One of the problems when we explored very in-depth as far as our current model for serving students, so we have a lot of students that aren't really able to access, specifically in special education, the class type that they need. So for example, at Carmen Trails, we have one early childhood special education classroom. So if it's very difficult to explain, but there's a lot of different class types involved in when we're talking about early childhood special education. So really at that facility, that's the only option that a child could access when they may need a different type of program. So we have classes for students with autism, we have classes where students have peer models, a lot of different types, and so it really limits being able to serve and make sure students get access to the exact programming they need. When we bring everyone together in a program, we're able to have a variety of different class types, so I can provide you more information about all of the different class types that we offer. But another thing is when you think about a student who is in crisis, so if you have over half of your student body or students with special needs, you can imagine that we have some behaviors and we need a lot of extra hands and support. But when we have one classroom that's isolated by itself, we're not able to give that support. So for example, I have a student in crisis, I'm calling a counselor, I'll be there in 20 minutes, 25, we're not really able to give the high quality that we would like. So this is gonna provide not only opportunities for our teachers to collaborate, but to be able to offer our students the correct class type for their needs.
So, but getting back to my original question, how many students is this building going to be able to hold?
Yeah.
And
So
of that, how many are existing, they're going to be moved in, and then how many more are we going to be able to accommodate?
Yes, so we'll have 8, so this can hold 13 classrooms. So we're planning to bring up to 8 classrooms over, and then we would open an additional 5 classrooms. And then to give you the breakdown of numbers, I'm going to give you a range because it really depends on the class type. But we would have the capacity to serve around 300 students, and then we would be bringing over probably about 100, and I'm going to have to go back and look at the math, but we'd be bringing about 120 students over. When you think about capacity, we're only able to serve 184 students at one time because we have half-day classes. So we have we're complicated in early childhood. We have like Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes that are just in the morning. We have Tuesday, Thursday classes that are just in the morning. We have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday afternoon. So one classroom could be 54 students at different times, 3 different sections, if that makes sense. So I'm happy to provide some breakdowns for you. We do get very complicated in the world of early childhood.
I understand that. So it looks like really if your capacity is 300 students and we're bringing over 120, we're really only going to be able to bring in an additional 180 students.
Well, and it really, again, it
children.
depends on which class types we opt to open. So if we open a half-day classroom, we're going to serve 54 students. If we open a full-day classroom, we're going to serve 18. An early childhood special education classroom may just serve 10. And so it really, what we plan to do is we have information on our wait list, but right before we get close to opening the center, we'll be surveying families. We'll be looking at our first steps data for our incoming students that have special needs to look at what class types will need to open for the expansion at that time.
And beyond the scope of this, one of the things that I have been advocating with Dr. Marty is, as a person who used to utilize daycare as a working parent, I could not use Parkway because it was not a full-time, year-round type of service. And so I would just like to throw that out there, that perhaps we can even serve more if the model were changed a bit to be
Absolutely,
able to be
absolutely.
more-
And we're open to that. You know, we always tell the community and people that, you know, we're not for every family, but we are here to make sure that that everyone has access to the care that they need. So just keeping in mind, like, you know, we know that there are childcare centers that run year-round, and we know that we have families that are able to afford that. We also are really proud of the fact that we offer classes that are, you know, tuition that's very affordable. We offer reduced tuition. We offer early intervention and a lot of free programs for families like Parents as Teachers and play-based
Yes.
screening. So we want to meet all different types of families, but that's something that we've talked about in the future.
And those are wonderful. And
Yeah.
our family did do Parents as Teachers and did do all those weekend bubble workshops or whatever. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun. So it's a wonderful program, and not to demean anything that we're currently doing. It's just, you know,
Yeah,
we just want
we're
to,
open.
you know, bring everybody in and help everybody
Yeah.
as much as possible.
We're open to looking at summers. We've talked about with staffing, that's one of our biggest hesitations is just the staffing piece of summers, but it's a good idea.
I want to follow up real quick on something that Debbie just said. So, you know, rough numbers, 180 new potential students. One of the speakers today talked about the lottery system not necessarily benefiting the 63021 area code. There was 400-ish on the wait list, so you're still looking at 320 kids who aren't getting in. I do struggle with the notion that we're trying to help this zip code, but yet they're not necessarily going to be getting in here. It could be not a single one gets in. We need to make sure we're looking at that, and maybe we need to look at our potential of changing the way that we have enrollment to make sure that we are helping the people that we say need help versus the potential of not being able to help any of them.
Absolutely. And we've explored that and looked at every year we have discussion around our lottery process. Most of the time, currently they can fill out a class preference form, so they fill out their first, second, and third choice for a location. And then we hope that they get their first choice, but if they don't, we will go ahead and offer a second and third choice that may be further away. So usually they put their first choice down, and we hope that we can meet that. But we just want to leave other opportunities in the event that they're able to access that. But those are always things that we could explore in more detail.
Just to kind of follow up again, is there a reason we are not looking at adding more classrooms to accommodate the yearly waiting list?
So I think that this is just our first step in the right direction. We've really explored and had a lot of conversation around. So one thing, an interesting fact, when we look at the number of students coming into Parkway Kindergarten, Parkway Early Childhood is only serving about 18% of those. And so our intent is not to be able to serve all 100% of students that will enter Parkway Kindergarten, but we are very passionate about ensuring that all of our Parkway kindergartners have had opportunities to have either earlier intervention, childcare, or preschool, whatever they may need. So I think that that's just something that we're working towards, starting with the South project, but exploring other opportunities as well.
I have a question, I think probably for Ralph. How many acres do we have to work with there, and how many acres do we truly need for a facility of this scope?
The mobile acres that are associated with Southwest Middle is the number I know because of contracting services out, and that's approximately 4.7 acres of 4.7 acres that are considered mobile that we contract out currently. The overall campus, I would have to get some more information on that by the time you take into consideration where the ponds currently reside, and then we have the hillside that we originally had looked at. That's all part of the Southwest campus, and off the top of my head, I do not have those numbers, but I will get them.
But for a building the size that we're talking about in the accompanying parking lot and playground.
Yeah, I'll put together something so that you can better understand it, but yes, when we start, if we go to look at a completely new space and we're looking at the access road in, we're looking at parking lots, we're looking at building space that it's going to occupy, and then we start to look at some of the things that we have there, the nature trails and that, you start to get close to that 14 acres that you're looking at, that you're developing. So when you talk about 4.7 acres at Southwest Middle, it's truly the mobile space that, we keep referring to where we want to put the building. Or
What does
where
that mean, mobile space?
I cut the grass there.
Okay. Oh, mowables. All right, sorry.
No, not, sorry, mowable, M-O-W-A-B-L-E, I think. So that's the number, like I said, those are some numbers that's one of the numbers I know, but I do know that when we go to look at new property, typically we are in the 14-acre range for any type of an early childhood or even an elementary school when you start to consider all the other things that you have to put in place to even start to build the building. Then you need all that surrounding space as well, which is existing there when you look at the whole campus and you look at the trees immediately to the north of Wren as well. There's some opportunities to do some things there as well that would be considered part of that 14 acres we'd look at if we went somewhere else.
I have a question for Ms. Briganti. First of all, thank you for being here. Could you just briefly walk us through Manchester's role in a project like this? When would you see a school district present you with a proposal, and how does that process work as far as what things you're required to do to ensure that we have a buildable, usable space and we meet traffic and safety requirements and things like that?
Okay. So basically, the City of Manchester, as with any municipality, will review a project as it's presented to us. So in the case of a school district or any other agency of the state, we have certain limitations with respect to what we can and cannot review. So we are looking at how this site plan meets our requirements, our zoning code requirements. And what we're looking for is, does it meet our setbacks, the traffic impact analysis, number of parking spaces, the amount of green space, which is actually what in our municipal code is actually open space. They're used interchangeably. So context within the neighborhood and a lot of other criteria. So once a project has gone through site investigation, then an application is presented to us. And the site investigation includes things like, what does the stormwater management look like? What is, which is kind of covered by a different jurisdiction, which is MSD. St. Louis County looks at land disturbance. But once the site investigation has been completed, it is presented to the city. And then again, we review the application based on our municipal code. So just in terms of our process, we want to make sure that it's the right project for our community as well as for the school district. So we want to be thoughtful, consider public input, take time to look at it from a professional standpoint. And right now we have received the application from the school district and are looking at it from the staff perspective. And that includes a technical review of the traffic impact analysis and the site plan. So We, again, want to make sure that we do an adequate job in reviewing that. And once we do, we will provide comments back to your professional team and go from there in terms of our review and approval process. It will be presented to our Planning and Zoning Commission in a study session. Okay. And then at a later time, the Planning and Zoning Commission will vote to either they can make a recommendation for approval or denial to our Board of Aldermen, and our Board of Aldermen will have the ultimate decision with respect to the project. There is an opportunity for public input at any of our public meetings. Again, we look at our code as well as what we're permitted to do within respect to procedural due process, the state statute, local codes, and federal laws. So I hope that answered the question.
In a project of this scope, what's a typical timeline for you to do all of those things?
There probably, I would say 6 to 9 months, depending on, this is a complex project with a lot of concerns with traffic impact and land disturbance. So from the time it's submitted until the time of approval, it could be 6 to 9 months.
And when did you receive it?
Officially received the application earlier this month.
Okay.
Correct.
And I'm sorry, you ran through a list of things that you look at when evaluating these projects. Do you include density, commercial space, like you would real estate, residential buildings? And
for school districts, we do not have a ratio.
okay.
So what we do is we just ensure it meets our setbacks. School districts, as well as some other agencies of the state, have there are some items that a municipality can and cannot review, so that there is enough space on this property to meet our setback requirements and our green space requirements, et cetera. Then we do not regulate the number of buildings per parcel.
I think you said you've only had anything submitted for about a month, so maybe this is premature, but has the city considered the traffic situation? Is it too early to ask you the city's position on what the traffic's like on the street, what it could be like?
Right, and I just want to make clear that, I mean, we have received the plans, but they've been officially received as complete just earlier this month. We are still looking at the traffic impact study, and as with any large project or any project of this nature, we provide feedback to the traffic engineer as to whether or not there are deficiencies in the scope of the project or the findings. So we don't have a position at this time.
All right, let me ask you a similar question. I think you've been here throughout the meeting, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, so we had a lot of individuals speak about the existing traffic situation. I mean, that's, obviously this hasn't occurred yet. Is the existing traffic in this area a concern of the city's? Is it something's planned to address even if there is no development? Is it as dire as it sounds? What's the city's position on this street and traffic?
Sure. The existing traffic is a concern. It was brought to the city's attention through this project. We don't have a lot of data prior to that suggests that there were some issues with traffic, but now that through this project and the concern of the neighbors, we've been made aware of multiple issues, and the city is studying what we can do independent of this project, and have conducted an informational gathering meeting with residents 2 weeks ago, and there will be some projects that the city does regardless of whether or not this project moves forward.
Can I follow up on Kevin then too? Because my biggest concern is this traffic issue, and I'm not a traffic expert, so I actually called in a favor. I have a friend who's a traffic engineer. I had to review the preliminary report to give me some feedback. So these are not my thoughts, might seem smart at all, but just thoughts about what's going on right now and what she thought with the preliminary study. First off, she said the CBB did a great job with the study, their work and their findings, and that she would actually very much well trust the data that they brought forth. And I asked her then too, as she was a Wren Hollow parent, how would she react to the traffic report too? And as part of that, her biggest concern was that It does say in the preliminary study that right now, it does need a right turn lane going north on Sulphur Springs, making a right turn on the Wren. And that regardless of the ECC, that should be part of the plan for the future to make this a much safer intersection. And the other piece then too was, her concern was a crosswalk at Canary, and that with the signalized flashing light, I'm not sure on the exact term for it, would that be the best option there to get the drivers greater attention for that piece of it? And then, I'm not gonna go into all of her details because she went further than I would ever go, but the other piece then too was, for the safety right there at Sulphur Springs and Wren, is the fact that what type of right turn will be there? Will it be a right turn only on red, or not on red? Will there be a, she called it a what, pork chop little island out there, make the turn easier? But those type of extra safety concerns are already there right now, regardless of the ECC. And where does that fall within your purview to actually help get those implemented, if there are concerns already with the site? I don't have to put the answer right now.
Okay, yes.
Those are the concerns that
yes.
are out there,
Yes.
even right now with the current situation.
Correct.
And you heard some of those tonight too.
Correct, and the city is looking into them as, into those situations. We're receiving all the feedback that we've heard in the ECC meetings, as well as our independent meetings. And the Sulphur Spring Road is not a city road, it's a county road, so we work in partnership with the county on some, whether or not some of these are, your traffic engineer friend will say warranted, which we believe there is some justification for making some of these improvements. So again, going back to the question before, regardless of what happens with this project, the city has identified this as a concern from an engineering standpoint, an education standpoint with our parents and our residents, and then also an enforcement concern.
Got to put you on the spot there with the pork chop island.
One more question that I have, this may go to Ralph or possibly even Patty, I'm not sure. In looking at all the various different options available, I understand the school district's desire to build on something that we already own from a financial standpoint, because we don't have to purchase vacant property then on top of a building. But in all of this analysis, has there been any survey done of vacant property in the target area that we're looking at to see, is there even anything available? There may not even be anything available out there.
So-
And assuming that we want to have green space associated for an outdoor area for learning, because that's very important. So some of these other ideas that have come forward with Best Buy in a parking lot, that's just not gonna cut it, because we don't have what we want to produce in a playground like that. So what's out there, if
So
anything?
part of the answer resides in, we started this back in 2019, the fall of 2019, when we started talking about this. Patty did ask myself and James Swingle at the time to look at some other properties. At that point, we did not identify any properties in this general vicinity that would meet the criteria that we were looking at. That's when we kind of landed, if you will, on the southwest middle Wren Hollow parcel of land, once we realized that we had some acreage there that we could work with. As we started to look at that, it started to seem viable for us at the time based on the information we had. So then we moved ahead with that. Now, to answer today, is there other property available? I have not looked personally, and I think Patty could probably shed a little more light on that, but I think it would be something that if you would ask us to do, we would be more than willing to do that.
Thank you, Ralph. Very good question. We did have a community member that had sent a potential property that was, of course, in, I'll say, the Barrett's area, so certainly within the potential target area as well. We currently work with CBRE with some of our leased properties, so we asked them to reach out to the landowners, and they are not, at this time, willing to sell. They're not marketing the property as yet. So we do have them actively looking for any listings that, potentially would be the 10 to 14 acres, and so far we have not received anything that they've identified. When Ralph mentioned our property search, earlier in the bond issue development. At one point in time, we were looking for potentially an area for a natatorium, for a district natatorium as well. And we did have very few land spaces even at that time. That was a smaller portion of land that was available for development for us. So it's tough because much of Parkway is developed. So to find that large a piece of land within the area that we need, it is pretty difficult.
So in that conversation about the natatorium, one area that came up is right in front of South Middle here. Has that been thought about? Not to take green space yet again away from, but it looks like a rather large parcel there. I don't know if that meets your acreage or not, or if it's even in the target area where you want to build, and then that if you did bring TLA in, then that would be more closer to some of the other administrative areas that they like to collaborate with. So has that been considered?
That has certainly been one of the renditions, and I believe it was a little bit of a barrier for location for early childhood because we already have the early childhood center on Clayton Road as well. So kind of close proximity. So it was not necessarily meeting the south area that we were really trying to target. And when Elena speaks of the different classrooms that we would potentially consolidate into the center, many of those classrooms exist now in south area elementary schools and such too. So we wanted to bring something most desirable would be then a classroom, a building within that south area.
So to follow up on that, on the website, it says the reason is because of 141 and congestion. Is that truly the reason, or is it the reason you just spoke of? Because I just want to try and understand, because, I'm not in the 63021, but I think if you did a community survey, they'd probably say having it here would work just fine for them. So I just kind of want to know the reason why this is fully not, if it is a traffic and it says Missouri Department of Transportation as an issue, we want to know the facts on that.
There would be some cost involved if we could even get the State Highway Department to agree to reconfiguring the stoplights out there. And then based on the information we received from our architects, we're looking at potentially $100,000 to $300,000 per pole just to move a pole in order to accommodate any type of traffic. Then, in speaking with Elena, the property out front, as far as the early childhood center, putting young people that close to the highway and knowing the nature of children in that particular age group, it was a huge safety concern because they do have a tendency to wander a little bit. Additionally, we would not have some of the trail space that we're looking for some of the outdoor learning environments that we're trying to develop. When we say outdoor learning environments, we're not just talking about taking them out here back to the field. We're actually talking about doing some cool things in the woods and that, trying to get folks more in touch with nature. As people have said, we've become very reliant on our screens in front of our face. We want to get people back out in nature, and that area out front does not afford us that.
And that makes complete sense. I would recommend putting that on the website so people can understand truly the reason why you are not, what I heard and what I read doesn't reflect what you just said. And just for transparency purposes, I think something like that, it makes complete sense. I think that should be on the website.
And I'll take ownership with some of what's out there on the website. I probably should have done a little better job of vetting some of that out and making sure, yes, and that's where I was going with that, is that it is a work in progress, and we have a very large district, not to make excuses, but we have multiple projects going on, and sometimes we forget to make sure that we do dot our I's and cross our T's and make sure that we are presenting the details that are necessary for folks to understand our decisions.
I appreciate that.
I'm not going to say this comment and suggest that we don't pursue building an early childhood center, but knowing our timeline, what happens to the money that was earmarked in the bond campaign if we don't do anything for, say, a year or two or whatever? How does that work?
I'll let Patty, she probably will explain this a little better than I can.
So, as you know, we made one issuance of the 265 million. So we've sold 90 million of the 265 million so far. So with each issuance, we do have to then give a project list. But we can amend that list. So with the Board of Education, we can amend that list, and then it can go on to that next bond issuance. And we could, our language is, I guess, essentially broad enough that we can then fill it with other projects that still fill the same criteria within the definition until we make that next issuance as well. But based on some of the project delays such as Riverbend and North High as well, we've actually delayed some of our construction and our spending as well. We believe that some of the review process and the extensive, perhaps making, accommodations for the traffic, et cetera, may delay the opening of the early childhood, potentially one more year as well. That should still put us within the spending of the 90 million bond issuance as well. So it all depends on how long it goes. But, we should still be okay with that.
Ralph, one question I have, in the original idea of where to put the ECC on the campus of Southwest Middle School that has been abandoned because of stuff, is that an area that could be used to renovate for green space for Southwest Middle School instead of that upper field? I mean, could we just kind of make a swap here?
I have asked bond architects to start to give us something to address just that. I mean, that is one of the things, once we listened to what we were hearing from the community, and that was one of the first things I asked Rebecca Klebe to do for us, was to let me know what can we do to start to enhance that space over there, because there's already a garden there and there already is some flat space there. But what can we do? We also know that there is might have this a little bit wrong, but some sort of a memorial that is embedded in those woods there that is upkept by one of the members in the community. It was for a student, I believe. I might be a little bit off on that, but we do know that there's something in the woods there, so we would like to enhance that as well. We know that there's the walking path coming out of Big Bend Woods onto the Southwest Middle Campus. We're looking at making that more of a hardscape instead of just a dirt path with a nice bridge that a Boy Scout did as a Eagle Scout project. So I also asked them too, when they look at that, to make sure that we honor that work that was done as well.
Well, I have to say, when I did the tour and walked on that very cold, wet, breezy day, I can see your vision. I can. It's beautiful. It does, regardless of what happens, those water features back there in those ponds, I think to the benefit of Southwest Middle School would be better if we could put some attention there too, because they have not been maintained, and that would be wonderful. And I can see the vision. It's just we want to do it the right way to make sure that it's safe and that the traffic concerns are addressed, and that we're not being unsympathetic to sustainability and green space, because that is important. As a large organization, we need to be mindful of what we're doing with the environment as we build and grow and things like that, and that we want to maintain green space that way as well. But I can see the vision. I understand why you want that space because of the outdoor features, but I still would really like to see the idea, if we don't put TLA in there as part of that project, could that help in some capacity with traffic? Because that's a rather large department, and bringing in those number of parking spaces and staff that would be there in the meetings that take place and in and out and all that. So I think that might be worthy conversation. And then finding, I understand we want to get them out of leased space from a financial standpoint, but might there be some other thing to do as we're looking at consolidating and bringing together better our administrative technology people together in a same space. So yet another plan to take into consideration on what do we do then with TLA. And then I'd also be curious, if we're consolidating these ECCs, what's going to happen to those spaces in those schools? So not that we need to go into that tonight, because I know it's getting late, but more to come, perhaps. us on that front as well.
I appreciate your
I'm just gonna tell you that those trails were built by, there's only one trail that was built by me. It was all honeysuckle, you couldn't even walk through it 5 years ago. You should know that. And it was not maintained, and I personally carved out that along the ridge. All the honeysuckle was built that trail, so. Built easy safe, just gonna go back to honeysuckle.
There's always the goat idea to bring in to eat honeysuckle out there too, and the little kids might really like the goats.
All right, once we get to the
We
goat
talked
idea, I
about
feel like.
that.
Anyone else have any further questions for any of our panelists?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank
We-
you all very much, we appreciate
you.
it. And what's the timeline? I know we were still waiting on the final study for the traffic study. What's the timeline on getting that?
I think that depends on the feedback we get from the city of Manchester. So the city will be communicating with our traffic engineer, and then that's how the process goes. So I don't know that we have a timeline for that right now.
Okay, thank you. Well, you know, every one of these meetings where we hear people speak, and we've been gathering information, and I know we heard one person speak in favor, and we heard a number of people spoke in opposition to this particular site. Hearing some of the questions and some of the information provided by our guests tonight, there's, you know, I look at, our original plan was to do this starting this summer, right? Construction starting sometime this summer. Obviously, we have as the representative from Manchester indicated, we're already, you know, well past that, the ability to start this summer with a 6 to 9 month review that they would have to do. In addition, we've got a number of unanswered questions. So I think it probably would be a good idea at this point to at least put on hold the concept of construction this year, and do a thorough review of a number of different items. And I'm sure our board members could put together some thoughts, but I have 3 or 4 things, you know, traffic, safety, the buildable space, some things that I think we need some additional information on. And I think it might be a good idea to look at this project, this overall scope of where we're looking at it currently, and compare it with things that maybe weren't on the horizon in 2019 when we originally chose this site. Obviously, our world and commercial space is different than it was 5 years ago. So perhaps there's something, perhaps there's not anything better. But I think given the feedback that we've heard from our community, I think the questions that were raised tonight and still some unanswered, I think it would be good to take a pause and see, make sure we have all of our options compared. Sounds
Yeah,
reasonable?
yes, I mean, I think we've heard a lot, this is great, by the way, I think the board's questions and I appreciate the experts being here, so I know we took a lot of good notes tonight. I think one of the things that, you know, we can't forget, and I think even a number of the residents understand, we want to build an early childhood center. How can we do that and take into account the traffic needs and the safety needs, the green space, all those things? But we also have a need. And so I think to Jeff's point, I think we can, you know, try to, you know, look at other options. But, you know, Elena is continually, you know, has a vision. And I just want to reinforce, since Elena's come, I just hope everybody understands when she talks about consolidating, which we have in the Clayton program, it's such a better program for young people than an isolated program in the school. It just, and she said it very well, but it doesn't give the opportunity for that child to get what they need and the opportunity to also be flexible with staffing and the children's needs. As Elena often says, I mean, we're taking in children that have oftentimes, because of they're in this program, because their parents recognize that they have some special needs and some needs that need to be addressed. So again, those are some of the big things that we got to consider educationally. But we certainly are very respectful, as we've indicated to our residents and their concerns and the safety concerns and the traffic concerns. So we will dig in. We will do our best to continually keep the board informed. I do want to say, Elisa went back to her table, but we have updated and can you come back up, Lisa, because I want to make sure we say this correctly. We've kind of updated the webpage and the access to it so that when questions come in, we're trying to, rather than respond to everyone, we're trying to develop a webpage that's more usable. And I know Lisa spent a lot of time with her staff this week answering questions. We got some others that have come in. You want to just take a moment and be helpful to?
Sure. So we're trying to do a better job of making sure that the community has access to the information they're looking for. So if you go to parkwayschools.net, you'll see on the top, you'll see a place where you can just click and go to the page. That has information about the Early Childhood Center. Looks like we're going there now, maybe. No, okay. I thought maybe we were going to get a tour. But you'll see project information. You will see an ongoing list of questions and answers. We've begun to put questions by theme. So you'll see something you'll see like traffic. You can click a button, you can see all the different questions that we're answering about traffic. Questions about green space, all the questions we're answering about green space. So I encourage you, as you have questions, please go take a look and see if it's already been answered. I mean, we probably have about 70 questions up there at this point. And some of the questions that we're getting from folks are repetitive, and we're trying to do our best of still answering those. But a lot of these are online. So go take a look and see what you can find. There's a place here, if you do have another question you don't see an answer to, you can submit it that way.
And I will just say too, one of the things that we continually, and Patty Bedborough said it very well, if you know anybody that's, got, 20 acres or 14 acres, because that would be welcoming. I mean, I think we were momentarily here for the last couple of weeks kind of excited about that potential area near Barrett's, because we are open. There just is not that kind of space. And then once we look at space, it's got to be certainly accessible to some other concerns. We got a whole group of other issues potentially with neighbors and traffic studies, but we're certainly open to that. And just right now, we just haven't seen that space. And so we really welcome anybody who is thinking about selling. It's just we've gone through this considerable, even as we were thinking about, and again going back to that space here, when we were considering building the potentially a swimming aquatic center. One of the big concerns we were hearing was that 141, which is a state highway, there'd be so many requirements with additional traffic. Jeffrey, to go back to your question, that we'd have to be building extra lanes. It was going to get pretty excessively expensive. So that's another, concern that we heard at that time. We didn't get deeply into it. So, there's so many factors, and when you start talking about, traffic and then maintaining green space, and then of course, is it the place buildable? Are we building in a area that's potentially a floodplain? So again, we'll continually investigate. We really, again, by the voters last time in the study that Dr. Beckner and Elena did, we really want to take care of the needs for our early learners. And we have, as you know, a passionate early learning staff who do an excellent job, and we really want to be good stewards of that call for providing more. And Elena would even want more. We would, if we could continually grow that program. Some people will say that one of the best things we can do to deal with the future of education and mental health and all the issues we have is to have quality early learning. And I think we have it, but we want it for more students and more families and more young people. So, but Board, I thought your discussion was really good. Thank you for your input. Thanks to our citizens again for their questions and sort of their advocacy as well.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to invite Dr. Tiffany Holman-Best, our Deputy Superintendent, Dr. Kevin Beckner, Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning, to join us for a work session on Project Parkway. There's handouts. Oh my goodness. Second month in a row. Thank you. Tiffany's over there doing nothing, she could be handing out the second page.
I know. Are you ready? Okay.
Take it away.
Good evening again. Happy to be back with you in work session for Project Parkway. We were with you last month, and this month we're going to continue our work. If you recall, just the work and timeline where we started back in February of 23, we are now on the third hexagon that's up there, where we are in our January to June 2024 sprint, as we will call it, in developing our 5-year strategic plan, as well as our CSIP, a Comprehensive School Improvement Plan, for the 24-25 school year. If you recall, last time we talked about the feedback that we got from the Project Parkway focus groups resulted in 5 categories: commitment to equity, resource allocation, student well-being, achievement, personalized and real-world learning. Those were all formulated into areas, and then we did some strategy work. We have 3 updates for you this evening around strategy revision, which I believe Kevin passed out to you. We're going to go through that with you. We're going to look at plan organization, and then we will also cover timeline and next steps.
So strategy revision, I think it was, well, we had 3 board members at our Project Parkway Steering Committee meeting last week, President Todd, Vice President Hopper, and Ms. Matt Franklin. And we spent a bit of time looking at our strategies and the feedback that was in the thought exchange and the various pieces. So we are, based on all the feedback from Steering Committee, and Steering Committee actually did 2 things. One, we gave them a digital form, even for people who weren't able to be there, to submit any comments about the strategies, sent that out a couple times to Steering Committee, and then we met in person and we went over the strategies, had them work in groups and provide some feedback. So we have modified on the 2 sheets I gave you. The smaller of the 2 are the strategies you saw last month. So that is the unmodified version. The larger sheet shows potential revisions that were suggested by Steering Committee and that we are attempting to incorporate, so you can see what those are. We'll go through those box by box, and I'm putting on the screen the same thing that you have in front of you, just so anybody in the audience can also see what you have in front of you as well. So in the achievement box, and I am not calling out just individual single words, but some of the bigger pieces that we're talking about. So if you notice on the old version, there were 4 objectives under achievement. And when we looked, strategy 1 and 3 were very similar. They're dealing with the same concept. So the suggestion was to combine those into 1, which is what we did. So now there are 3 strategies in the achievement section. You might note that first one is a little bit longer. And because the old version had developed a competency-based curriculum and make sure that every student can identify what they're learning, why they're learning it, in every class, those were separated before. We've just combined those because they really are ultimately the same thing at the end of the day. So just tightening that up. Secondly, previously it said on number 2, high levels of achievement, and there were just a lot of questions from Steering Committee about, like, that's just making me ask, what does that mean, over and over again. So we've just shifted that language a little bit to ensure success for every student. We know that success for every student does look different. It is just a verbiage change, but to try to capture that there's not a magic number that is at high level, but rather every student, we want them to be successful regardless of where they are in their journey right now. In the personalized and real world box on the left, we just have some verbiage changes on numbers 2 and 3. So on number 2, it used to say develop and implement opportunities for each student to gain exposure to real world. That doesn't honor the fact that we already have some great stuff going on in our schools. So the suggestion was just to say increase, because it recognizes just that we're already doing some of this. We don't need to develop and implement from scratch. We already have some things. So just changing that to increase. And number 3, we had a lot of comments about number 3 that it was jargony and unclear. That there were just words in there and people like, what are you talking about, like credentials? Like that just felt awkward to Steering Committee. And so they suggested cleaning that up. And so you can see that new wording in the box on the screen, which is to implement a program to promote, recognize, and celebrate student attainment of real-world and success-ready skills. So we have been part of the Success Ready Student Network that you as a board have approved our participation. You've heard some updates on that work, and you've also seen our vision for a learner and spent a lot of time with that document that we did through Project Parkway and developing that. This bullet is really saying, we're serious about that, and we actually want to see our students achieve our vision. We actually want to see our students gaining real-world experience, and we should find ways that go beyond GPA and grades and standardized test scores to say, we see you, we recognize that you are doing some amazing things, and you're getting some real skills that are valuable for your life beyond school. So just clarifying all that language to say that's a strategy. We want to do that for our students. Bless you. In the equity box, we have some changes there. First of all, the title used to say commitment to equity. And some members of the steering committee said, you could say commitment to achievement, and you could say commitment to personalized, and you could say commitment to student well-being. Why is it there? There's not a reason for it. So we just eliminated that in the title. In number 1, it said to address disparities is now reduce, because just the comment was like, be really specific. Don't just say address it. What do you want to do to it? Do you want to decrease disparities? Say decrease, just to make it more focused on what the outcome that we want is. And then in the bottom right, in the student well-being box, number 1 used to have the word connection, and we just switched that to community. And because connection was seemingly ethereal, like we want our kids to be rooted in their community, in their school, in what they're doing, and just, again, be much more clear about that. You see, I wrote in that box, the question we received is connection to what? That was the steering committee feedback, like connection to what? Well, it's ultimately to their community, so we just switched that word to community. Number 2, we had also some feedback from steering that it was very jargony and heavy and needed to just be made more parent and student friendly. So the new wording is designed to focus on students, that we want to create a comprehensive PD plan around social emotional well-being so that we can better support kids. There were some words there about, you can see it on your old sheet, but like growing our capacity or scaling our services. And what are we really trying to do? We're trying to support more kids. So just making it more friendly to the reader. And in that third one, we didn't have a real reason, student-centered reason stated. Why would we want to increase our partnerships with community around mental health and well-being? So again, we just added there that the goal here is to ensure that student needs are met. So ultimately, the language changes are trying to drive it more towards students, more practical, more clear. What are we actually trying to accomplish so that we can better serve all of our kids? So we'll pause right there just on the strategy section to see any thoughts, comments, or questions based on these revisions that were suggested by steering committee.
There was one more revision under resource allocation. Number 3.
Number 3 on resource allocation.
We don't have a bubble on it.
I don't have a bubble on it. Thank you for pointing that out. Excellent clarification. Yeah, I need my short sheet. Number 3 previously said, I don't have it on the screen either, but it previously said, evaluate and address inequities in staff and financial allocation to flexibly respond to increased student need. That new change, the new language is ensures staff and financial resources are flexibly and equitably allocated to best meet increasing student needs. And the comment that came from steering committee was submitted in that form, and it said the word equitably just feels out of place in the order of what you're trying to do here, so it was a verbiage change that was suggested for that reason. And thank you, Ms. Matt Franklin, for pointing that one out. Any other questions or comments or thoughts about these proposed revisions?
Having sat through the steering committee work, I think you nailed it from everything I recall. You know, just walking around looking at everybody's comments, you've definitely addressed them, so looks good.
Great, thank you.
I agree. I think it's easier to read as just a regular person. It's what I am.
You're more than a regular person.
More than a regular person.
It almost seems oversimplified sitting here tonight now looking, if anybody from the outside hasn't been involved in this, but the effort that went into getting this funneled down to this level has been monumental. And so it just seems so simple now tonight to say, oh, yeah, of course, you know, and you've consolidated it so well without, you know, spending hours on it. But
Yeah, well, thank you. It was
hours were
I
spent
credit
on
to our
it.
steering committee, because they did, as you know, you were there, a lot of heavy lifting in that group.
Right.
They spent a lot of time, they've been together now for a couple of years, providing feedback to help us get to this point, so credit to that group. Any other thoughts or questions before we go into our next part? Okay.
Now, does this bring into effect the measurable objectives, or is
We're
that-
going right there.
we're
You
segueing
are,
right
you
into
are
it.
reading my
Alright,
mind, Ms.
gotcha.
Hopper.
Okay,
Thank you
very
so
good.
much. Yeah. So thinking about how the plan itself is organized, the other thing that steering committee did that Ms. Hopper's mentioning is we spent a lot of time thinking about our objectives. And how do we measure this plan? What are the things that we're actually looking for? We've now taken 2 runs at creating objectives, and we're still in what I would call a development phase. I brought just a couple of visuals from our old plans, just so we can go back and reference some of these. This was our 2011 through 2016 plan. Back then, we had 6 goals as part of the strategic plan that came out of Project Parkway 1.0. And each goal area, so we organized at that time the goals around the C words in the mission statement, around capable and curious and confident. And then we tried to create measurable objectives, like how would we know that we've accomplished these things? Yeah, and we also had, as you see on the right, we broke it into our commitments and our mission. That's how we organized the original plan, but it still had sort of goals and measurable objectives. And then I'm going to jump ahead just a couple slides. It had even this document that gets down to like the actual action steps. I see Ms. Stover smiling because this was her original work in Parkway. It was Project Parkway 1.0, but it gets all the way down to, you see there's a strategy column, there's an action step column. So what we're trying to do at this point, and Dr. Holman Best mentioned, we're in sort of this final phase of a sprint to put together all the information and all the work that we've been doing for the past 2 years. And we need to fill out some of these pieces that we haven't yet finalized. And that's what steering committee spent time doing, is trying to figure out, okay, so when we think about the objectives, what are those? As I said, we're still in development on that. Our intent is to bring that to you at your board workshop on Saturday the 20th, some drafts of those. Because even where we ended that night, we had some steering committee members who said, we're still writing objectives that are actually strategies. We're still writing objectives that are actually action steps. So we need to really continue to refine that process. So as we think about that plan organization, what I wanted to just mention is we have several pieces to still fill out here. And we need to spend our time at the workshop together really thinking about, here's what we're bringing to you as far as goals, strategies, actions, objectives. Where do these pieces fit together? And what's the information we have right now that will help us do that? So we'll be spending that workshop time that we have carved out specifically on that piece, including bringing some of those objectives back to the group. I did bring several other pieces just in terms of, this is Project Parkway 2.0. Which is technically our current plan until we approve a new one. If you remember, we reduced our number of goals from 6 down to 3. So overall, we have a student goal, which is about students positively engaging in the ever-changing world. We have a staff goal about them being dedicated to and representing our diverse community and our resources, responsibly and efficiently and effectively allocating those resources. Those were our goals in the current iteration of our strategic plan. And right now we're here. We're here with what we brought you tonight, is we have our categories. We know what our categories are because we know what our community has told us, that these are the things we're gonna focus on. Now it's just a matter of coming up with the concrete verbiage that will help us execute on this plan and be able to say 5 years from now, look at where we went and look at what we did around these big 5 areas. So a lot of work to do here in the next couple of months. And Dr. Holman Best is going to talk a little bit about the thought exchange, some of the other steps in that process, and we'll share the timeline of some of the work we have over the next 6 weeks or so.
Thank you, Dr. Beckner. So when we did the thought exchange and sent it out to ask people to begin reading some thoughts and when they saw the strategies, much of what we got back was, where is the plan? There were a lot of comments on facilities and resources. And so they needed, like what the community is telling us, they need more clarity. And so Kevin alluded to, we're still going to have measurable objectives. This is where we are right now. All of that detail is coming. In our current plan, it looks just like this. These pieces will remain. When we talk about the work over the next 6 weeks, it will encompass developing these plans when we're with you at the workshop and talking about what those measurable objectives are and where we're heading with the planning process. We'll be reviewing parts of the plan. And so these pieces aren't going away. They're also aligned with the state's expectations for us as we create our comprehensive school improvement plan as well as our strategic plan over the next 5 years. So our next steps, we're here with you tonight. Strategic planning also is charged with really making sure there's a check and balance on what the system is ready for and who should do what work and how we collaborate across the system. And so that is their work. We did meet with them this past week as well and took a run at the objectives with them as well and had some amazing feedback from that group. And then we'll continue our work on the 18th. We have the board workshop on the 20th. Strategic planning gets back on the 25th. We'll be back with steering one last time before we have a presentation of the plan components with you in May, and we'll be seeking your approval for the 5-year strategic plan in June of this year. Do you have any questions based on what we shared?
Can't think of a better 9th birthday present for my daughter than to approve Project Parkway 3.0.
Thank you both very much.
You're welcome.
Let's see. We have no special meeting, but we do have more closed business. So may I have a motion and a second that the Board of Education call for a closed session on April 11th, 2024, following the regular meeting at Parkway Welcome Center for the purpose of considering, 1, hiring, firing, disciplining, or promoting of particular employees by the district when personal information about the employee is discussed or recorded, 610.021.3. 2, individually identifiable personnel records, performance ratings, or records pertaining to employees or applicants for employment, 610.021.13.
So I'm going to say so moved, but we could vote against this.
Yes?
Okay.
I was thinking the same thing.
So moved.
Second.
We got to call roll, so now it's, you got to own it.
Yeah.
Mrs. Hopper?
Yes.
Ms. Matt Franklin?
You can vote no. I'm one vote.
Yes.
Mr. Reedy?
Yes.
Mr. Schindler?
Yes.
Mr. Seltzer?
I was thinking about it, like, fine, yes.
Mr. Spector?
Yes.
Mr. Todd?
Yes. Motion carries 7-0. This time we'll go into closed session for the rest of